Illusion of choice. Choice feels like freedom. You move your hand, you pick, and you feel in control. But many times, the options were set long before you arrived. Designers call it choice architecture, the way options are laid out. They frame the decision with size names, bundles, and default picks. Your brain likes easy paths, so the default feels smart and safe. A quick pick gives a small hit of dopamine, a warm yes from inside. That yes feels like freedom, but it's often just relief. We confuse feeling active with being in charge. You see it in a grocery aisle. Cool air drifts from the fridges as you scan the shelf. The bright labels sit at eye level, right where your hand stops. Family pack sits beside value pack, and the price tags nudge your eye to one line. The deal bundles one brand with milk, but not the others. The small size exists, but only in the plain flavor. You walk away certain you chose when the path was already paved. It shows up in contracts and sign-up forms too. The paper gives you 12 months or 24 and calls one best value. Month to month isn't on the page. The box that says share my data is pre-checked, and unchecking makes you pause. Most people pick what sits there because stopping to rebuild the choice costs energy. You're still choosing, but the shape of that choice can steer you without force. Control often lives in the hand that sets the menu, not the one that orders. The feeling of freedom is real. It just doesn't tell you who designed the field. Invisible boundaries. Most control is quiet. You don't hear a rule, you feel a nudge. It sits in how things are placed. Your brain reads edges, openings, and gaps. It treats layout like a map of permission. The thing that's closest feels like the right thing. The path with less effort feels like the right path. That's the default at work. The easy option wins. A tiny reach, a turn, or a step is often enough to steer you. We copy what the space suggests and what other people seem to accept. Lines, rails, and angles act like soft fences. A low barrier says not here, and a clear surface says go ahead. A clear path invites, a bad angle slows you down. None of it feels like a rule, but your body falls in line. You see it at a buffet. Plates sit on the far left, so the line starts there. Trays glide along a narrow rail. You hear a soft scrape, so you move that way. Tongs point forward, so you take the next thing. The warm smell of soup drifts up, and you pause where the ladle waits. Napkins and forks sit at the end, so you carry your plate the whole way. A bin waits by the door, and without thinking, you drop the tray there. No one told you what to do. The room did. This is control without commands. It's soft, fast, and easy to miss. It keeps crowds smooth and makes choices feel like your own. When you notice it, you get a little space to choose. Most days, though, the shape of the place makes the choice for you. Freedom with a script. We think freedom means doing what you want, yet most free choices land in the same safe lane. That's not a flaw, it's how people hold together. Approval writes the lines we tend to speak. A smile, a nod, a laugh. They pay you in tiny hits of relief. That's dopamine, saying do that again. Disapproval stings, and the brain tags that path as a risk. So you predict the room without knowing it. You reach for moves that keep belonging steady. You see it in small moments. You're around a table, planning a weekend. Steam rises from a mug. A chair leg scuffs the floor. Someone floats a safe plan, and heads tilt. Yes. You had a wilder idea, but you shave it down while you talk. You speak the version they'll like, and the nods come on cue. Your chest loosens as the nods arrive. Most people don't notice they're scanning for signs. It happens in eye contact, in timing, in how long a pause feels safe. Your voice shifts when you expect a nod. Your shoulders drop when someone agrees. It's the body's quick way to steer choices. It feels like confidence, and it depends on approval. That's why freedom often follows a script. You're still choosing, just inside lines that approval drew. It isn't fake. It's social learning. It's conditioning, and it keeps groups calm. Break the pattern, and you feel the cost right away. Stay inside it, and you get the warm, easy yes. Politeness trap. Politeness feels safe, like soft edges on a sharp day. But sometimes it turns into a quiet yes you never chose. We're taught to smooth things over. Your brain hates awkward pauses and raised voices, so it trades freedom for peace. A gentle tone signals a social rule, and your body follows the rule before you think. You nod, you smile, you soften your words. The small relief you feel is a tiny reward. It trains you to keep doing the same thing. Picture a long table, papers stacked, a faint hum from the vent. A friendly person suggests one more task for the weekend. They thank everyone in advance and look around the room. No one moves. Chairs creak. You feel a push, not on your shoulder, but under your ribs. You hear yourself agree before you decide. The room relaxes, and the job lands in your bag. That's the politeness trap. Soft words lower your guard and raise the cost of saying no. Refusing now feels rude, even if the request is heavy. Most people do this without noticing. We protect the other person's comfort to protect our own place in the group. The pressure is real, but it hides behind good manners. Politeness is a useful tool, but it can also serve control. When it turns automatic, it moves your mouth before your mind. Real respect allows a clean no as much as a warm yes. Control doesn't always shout. Sometimes it smiles and asks very nicely. When courtesy replaces choice, it isn't kindness anymore. It's control. Designed frustration. Some obstacles aren't mistakes. They're built in. A small pause, a stiff latch, an extra step. It's annoying for a moment. Then your brain says, now this is real. It feels like control. Not because you're free to do anything, but because you earn the next move. It happens because effort changes value. When you work a little, dopamine, that warm little yes when something works, lands a bit brighter. Your mind tags the result as yours. Designers know this. A tiny friction stops accidents and fast reflex. And it also tells you, pay attention. The hurdle signals stakes. You slow down, you choose, and the choice sticks. In the kitchen, think of a stove knob you have to push in before it turns. You press, hold, and hear the faint tick of the igniter. The ring of flame appears only after that small wait. That push is a guard against careless bumps, but it's also a cue. You feel present. You meant to light it, and you did. A soft wash of heat on your hand proves it. You see the same trick in child safe caps, turnstiles, and old safes with slow dials. The minor struggle is a small toll you pay to your own mind. Once you pay it, control feels earned, not given. Most people don't notice the design, only the relief that follows. Small resistance doesn't take power away. It shapes it into something you can hold. Self-Censorship. Real control often stays quiet. You don't hear a warning. You just feel a small tug to leave a thought unsaid. Most people learn to do this on their own. It starts as care for peace, then it turns into a habit. After a while, you stop checking whether the moment can handle your voice. It happens because your brain hates risk. It's a quick predictor, always asking, what will this cost? A sharp look once, a laugh last time, a correction you didn't expect. Your memory keeps score. Belonging feels safe, and being pushed out feels cold. Over time, your body links speaking up with danger and staying small with safety. The relief after holding back is a tiny reward, a warm hit of dopamine that says, "Good, you're safe." That relief trains you again tomorrow. You see it in a meeting. The air vent hums, a pen cap clicks. You have a better idea, and you feel it gather in your chest. Then you soften it, change a word, or wait. Someone else speaks. The moment passes, and your pulse settles. No one told you no. You told yourself first. Most systems prefer this because it saves them effort. Families, teams, whole cultures run smoother when people pre-edit their truth. Sometimes that's kindness, and sometimes it's fear with good manners. Over time, the line of what's sayable shrinks, and no one can point to who drew it. That's how power stays in place, quietly. The quietest rules are the ones you carry inside. Comfort as control. Comfort often wins, not because it's better, but because it's easy. Most control in daily life doesn't come from orders. It comes from soft things that feel kind. A warm room, a familiar route, the chair that fits your back. When something removes effort or tension, your mind treats it like safety. And safety is the most persuasive rule we know. It happens because your brain loves prediction. It saves energy when today looks like yesterday. Dopamine rewards the small relief when nothing hard happens. Uncertainty costs effort, so we narrow choices, then forget we did. Freedom stays wider, but it demands work to use it. Habits repeat themselves. The room makes some choices easier than others. Over time, comfort replaces freedom, choice by choice, with routines that run by themselves. You see it on a soft evening after work. You pass the park and the gym. The air is mild, leaves move a little. You promised yourself a run. Your feet slow at a sun-warmed bench. You sit for a minute, then another. Your muscles settle. The wood feels smooth under your hand. The plan shifts without debate. Nothing forced you. So the next hour went to sitting. This is how comfort becomes control. It removes friction until saying yes is automatic. People, places, and systems learn this and lean on it. Menus shrink, paths repeat, and life feels tidy. It isn't cruel, it's efficient. But there's a trade we stop noticing. We start to call the routine our personality. When ease sets the pattern, freedom is still there, just quieter. Addiction to permission. People say they want freedom, but many of us wait for permission. It feels safer to be allowed than to risk choosing. Control that comes with a nod seems calmer than control you claim alone. When someone else says it's fine, your chest loosens. It's easier when someone else carries the risk. It happens because your brain hates not knowing. Permission shrinks the unknown into neat lines. Approval drops a quick hit of dopamine, a warm little relief. We're trained young to raise a hand and wait our turn. Over time, asking first feels like safety. It frees you from the guesswork. At a public counter, paper's done. Your pen still hovers. You wait for the clerk's small nod. The counter is cool under your palms. The room holds a low fan hum. You know what to do, but the stamp will make it feel real. That loop is tidy. Ask, receive, relax, repeat. Over time, independence thins, like rails on a track. You plan less, waiting for the next permission to tell you where to step. It feels safe, but it steals practice from your mind. The skill of deciding goes unused. The strange part is simple. Permission feels like control, but it's borrowed. It calms your nerves and it trades away choice. You don't see the cost until you pause. Control that needs a gatekeeper isn't yours. Habits of obedience. Often, what feels like stability is just well-practiced obedience. You repeat the same move, call it steady, and stop thinking about it. It feels calm, predictable, safe, and because nothing breaks, the habit earns trust. You keep it, not because it's right, but because it's familiar. It happens because your brain rewards anything that cuts effort. A cue appears, the routine runs, a small relief lands. That's a dopamine pat. Each loop lowers friction and raises certainty. People nod when you follow the usual way, so stress drops. That's social conditioning, thin but strong. Soon the rule doesn't look like a rule. It looks like who you are. You're not obeying, you're just being consistent. You see it on a quiet Thursday, in a bright hallway that smells like paper and coffee. A sign says, appointments only. No one's there. The room is open. You still sit and wait, hands on your knees, because that's what this room asks you to do. The vent hums. When someone walks by, you smile and stay quiet. You keep to a line that isn't even marked. That's the trick. The habit sells obedience as stability. Most days, it keeps life tidy. But when the world shifts, the old loop still fires on time. Without asking who set the cue, you follow. Stability was the costume. The move underneath was obedience. Praise loop. Praise feels warm and safe. It opens you up. But sometimes it's a leash disguised as kindness. Your brain learns fast when approval shows up. That small hit of dopamine, the warm relief when someone agrees, teaches you where to go. You start moving toward it without thinking. Each time you adjust and get thanked, the habit gets stronger. That's conditioning, but with smiles. Soon, you're not choosing, you're reacting. You care less about your own goal than hearing that warm tone. Picture a late afternoon meeting wrapping up. Papers rustle as the room settles. The room is quiet, just the soft buzz of the vent. A manager points out how helpful you are when you stay late. You feel seen, so you repeat it next week. Later, they skip the mention, and your chest tightens. You offer even more, hoping the warmth returns. That's the loop. Praise sets the cue, you chase the reward, and someone else controls when it appears. Not every time, only sometimes, which makes it stronger. Random rewards keep behaviour running longer than steady ones. The reward lands at random, so your brain keeps trying again. Most people don't plan this, but the effect is the same. The leash isn't visible, but your choices start to match what that person wants. There's nothing wrong with liking kind words. It's human to feel good when you're valued. Control shows up when praise becomes the reason, not the signal. When applause starts deciding what you do, your options shrink. Real care doesn't need a leash. Silence commands. Silence can run a room. It sets limits without a single word. You feel it before you notice it. It happens because we're tuned to others. When sound drops, your brain looks up. Is this a line? Did you just step over it? That tiny pause makes your chest tighten. It's social feedback without a face. No blame, just the risk of being out. Picture a small yoga class on a wooden floor. You're talking while people settle. Shoes squeak, mats roll open. Then the rustle stops. Breath moves, steady and low. No one asks you to be quiet. They just don't meet your eyes. You hear your own voice sitting on top of the room. It sounds wrong. The words thin out. You nod, smile, and let it go. The class begins, and the rule is kept. Groups do this all the time. Silence refuses what doesn't fit. Attention is a reward loop. Withdrawal shuts it off. That quiet gap teaches faster than a lecture. Silence isn't empty control. It's shared agreement held in the air. You don't obey a person. You obey the pause. And once you know that, you can feel how often stillness steers us. It's a soft fence you learn not to lean on. Routine as leash. Routines feel helpful. They keep you steady, but they also narrow your choices. It feels safe and calm. That's why they work like an invisible leash on behaviour. Your brain loves what it can predict. Prediction saves energy, so it rewards repetition. Same cue, same action, same small ease. That feeling is dopamine, the warm relief when something fits. Over time, the loop runs by itself. You don't decide each step. The context decides for you. The leash is the cue. Time of day, the place you stand, even how your shoulders rest. When those line up, the body moves first. The mind catches up and adds a reason. If you try to turn, a small tension shows up. It's that tiny buzz that says, this isn't how we do it. It isn't danger. It's just a prediction error that asks you to get back in line. Picture a free Saturday. You plan to walk a new path. You step outside into cool air, shoes laced, keys in pocket. Without thinking, you take the usual left. Gravel crunches under your shoes. 2 blocks pass before you notice. You smile, a bit annoyed, and keep going, because it's easy, and it feels right enough. That's how routines hold us. They take care of effort, then quietly choose for us. They protect peace, but they also fence in chance. Until a new cue takes root, the old path keeps pulling. A leash is still a leash, even when you clip it on yourself. Comfort of direction. Direction feels like kindness. When you know what to do next, your body loosens. It's not the whole answer, but it quiets the noise. It gives your mind something firm to hold. Uncertainty keeps your brain on alert. It scans for threats and options at the same time. That split focus burns energy and raises stress. A clear step turns that scan into a line. Prediction gets easier, so the alarm relaxes. Dopamine rewards the feeling of progress, and your thinking voice gets louder. Open choices all look equal, and that feels unsafe. Clarity narrows risk, even if nothing outside changes. You see it when a path splits in a park. 2 trails run into cool shade. Your pace slows, your shoulders lift. Then, a small wooden arrow points left. Gravel crunches under your shoes as you move. You still don't know the whole route, but you go steady again. In a messy garage, a friend marks a starting spot. They point to the boxes on the left, setting the first move. Suddenly, the chaos shrinks. You know where to begin. That tiny bit of direction feels like a hand on your back. You don't need the whole plan, just a first slice. That's the comfort of direction. It doesn't remove risk, it removes loose ends. It narrows the future to one next step. We don't crave control over everything. We crave a clear next move. And when the next step's clear, control stops being a fight and becomes something you can follow. Scroll illusion. It feels like freedom. You can scroll, pause, or stop. Nothing pushes you. Your thumb decides. But the feed decides what your thumb meets next. That's the trick. It gives you endless scrolling while it quietly picks the next thing. Endless scroll removes edges. When there's no end, your brain doesn't get a clear cue to quit. The small hits of dopamine blend together. You chase the next nice one. The system watches tiny signals like hesitations and quick skips. It learns fast, then changes the feed. It's a slot machine built from you, paying out with bits that feel just right. Old media had stopping points, a page turn, a commercial break, a blank space. Those made you pause and choose. Endless scroll removes these points. You don't make a big choice, you just keep going. One easy swipe costs almost nothing, so your brain says yes. Picture a quiet couch after dinner. The glass feels cool under your thumb. You tell yourself, 2 more swipes. A friend's face, a joke, a stray fact you didn't ask for. You pause on a video with a dog, then on a recipe, then on something sad. The feed notes each pause, and the next minutes follow that mix. You didn't plan a mood, but the feed planned one for you. Most people think control means choosing. Here, control also means choosing what appears. You set the timing, but the content adjusts to keep you there. That's why it's hard to leave. You aren't trapped by force. You're guided by design. Feeling free isn't the same as being unled. Safety in compliance. Safety often feels like saying yes, not because you agree, but because the room stays calm. Your brain's threat system prefers the known. Conflict is noisy and unpredictable, so it flags risk. Social pushback hits like a small alarm, with cortisol ready. Acceptance brings a quick, warm relief, that little dopamine nod. From early on, we're trained for it. Quiet gets praise. Pushback gets a look, a pause, a chill. Over time, you learn the rule. Reduce friction. Stay included. Keep the world predictable. Groups build safety by setting lines and rewards. You see it in small signals, nods and quick smiles for a good fit. Silence for friction. Slow replies for dissent. Systems do it too, with forms, steps, and checkpoints. Follow the steps and things move fast. Step out and things slow down. Most people learn this without ever naming it. Picture a meeting, late morning. Someone in charge asks for quick agreement. You see a gap in the plan. Your hand twitches, then rests. You feel heat in your neck, a tight breath. A chair creaks. You nod, and the moment passes. Your body settles. The small relief is real. You're still inside the group, and the day moves on. That's the bargain behind quiet agreement. You give up a bit of voice for a sense of safety. Control doesn't vanish, it shifts. You manage risk by staying inside the lines, like slipping into a well-worn path. It works, until the cost grows louder than the calm. Most days, it's enough to keep things steady. Predictable behaviour. People are easiest to guide when they're predictable. When you repeat, it's simple to plan your next move for you. That's when guidance feels invisible. Your brain saves energy by turning choices into habits. A cue leads to an action, then a small hit of relief. That tiny dopamine yes says, do it again. Over time, your hands and feet learn a route. Systems notice these loops. They place the default where your hand already rests. They add a little friction to the path they don't want you to take. You see it in a grocery store. Cool air touches your arms as you roll inside. Your cartwheel clicks, and you drift to the right. Your usual aisle is wide and bright. Eye level carries your brand. A sample table sits at the bend, so you slow down. The sale tag is red. The bin is low. It's easy to grab two. At the end, candy waits by your elbow, just where a tired hand rests. Most places use the same trick. They make one path smooth and one path rough. Because when people follow the same path, steering takes only a nudge. It's like water finding a shallow channel. Predictability lets someone else draw that channel before you arrive. This isn't magic, it's pattern and timing. Cues, habits, and small rewards do the heavy lifting. The pull feels like your choice, because it is your choice. It's just a choice shaped ahead of you, by someone who knew what you'd do. Convenient control. Convenience steers behaviour more than authority ever does. Most people don't obey a sign. They obey the path that's easiest. We move towards smooth steps, not shouted rules. It feels like choice, but it's often friction doing the steering. That's why small changes shift crowds without a single order. It happens because your brain saves energy wherever it can. Every extra step feels like a tax, even when it's tiny. So tiny obstacles stack up like pebbles in a shoe. Tiny helps do the same, removing effort you'd rather not spend. A default option, an object placed at hand, a door that opens by itself, they all nudge you. Dopamine likes the quick win, and habit locks it in. Authority uses reasons and rules. Convenience removes effort and gives relief. That feeling usually wins. In a busy lobby, the escalator hums softly beside a narrow stair. A bright sign says, "Use the stairs for your health." People glance, then float onto the moving steps. No one's defying orders. They're just taking the smooth lane. Move the stairs to the center, make them wide and bright, and watch what happens. Footsteps rise in a steady stream. The sign can disappear, and nothing changes. You see the same outside, where a dirt trail cuts a corner across grass. Pave that line with stone, and the old keep-off posts stop mattering. The path sets the choice. That's how control often works. Quietly. Behaviours spread when they're the easiest thing to do next. Systems learn this, and so do people. Most control isn't loud or forceful. It's the shape of the route ahead, already smoothed. People follow what costs the least. Voluntary captivity. We like rules more when we choose them. A small limit can feel safer than big freedom. It feels solid. It feels safer in your body. It happens because the brain hates surprises. Too many options feel noisy. Choice opens room for loss. Loss aversion means losing hurts more than winning feels good. So we set limits to remove options before they scare us. A limit reduces decisions, and effort drops. Attention tightens. You know what to do next, and that lowers stress. That's why tight plans calm some people more than open days. There's also a control trick. When you set the rule, you still feel in charge. You didn't get forced, you agreed. Pre-commitment sounds fancy, but it's simple. You decide today, so tomorrow's self doesn't argue. Each time you follow the rule, your reward system gives a small, warm feeling. That yes is enough to keep the loop going. Think about running. There's an empty track after dinner, rubber soft under your shoes, air a little cool. You choose that circle over the open path through the park. The path keeps you guessing. On the track, you count laps and you settle into a steady beat. 4 laps become 8, because nothing unexpected asks for a choice. Most people do this in many places. Diets, budgets, routines, even bedtime. Voluntary limits aren't weakness. They're how minds trade risk for calm. You're not trapped when you can name the rule and change it. You're just handling the risk in a way your brain can track. When the edges are clear, you move farther without flinching. Obedience reflex. Most obedience isn't a decision. It's a reflex. By the time you think about it, you've already started to move. It happens because your brain saves effort. Repetition turns requests into scripts. Each time obeying brings relief or approval. The loop tightens. A firm tone or a visible badge becomes a cue. Your body tags it as the safe path, and action fires before doubt. There's a tiny burst of relief when you do what's asked, and that feeling teaches you to do it faster next time. You see it in small places. You sit on the exam table. The paper under you gives a soft crinkle. A nurse tells you to relax your arm, and your sleeve is already rolling up. You didn't weigh options or debate fairness. You followed a practice move, then you notice you did it. The cool sting on your skin arrives after the choice, not before it. Over time, the internal check light grows dim. You obey good orders the same way you obey useless ones, because the cue looks the same. A group turns, and you turn. Someone counts down, and you start. It feels smooth, and that smoothness is the reward. The reflex keeps life coordinated, but it hides the moment where saying no still lives. Control works best when it doesn't feel like control. What feels like a decision is often a well-worn path. Fear over logic. Fear moves first. Logic shows up late. Your body makes a call before your mind gets a vote. It's fast, blunt, and meant to keep you alive. It happens because the brain runs two tracks. There's a quick alarm that's old and jumpy. People call it the amygdala, the brain's smoke detector. It grabs the wheel, sends a shot of adrenaline, and pushes you to act. The slower, thoughtful parts check the scene after the jolt. They need more time and more detail to feel sure. You see it on a quiet trail. Dry leaves crack to your left, sharp and sudden. Your shoulders lift and your feet pause. All of that starts before a single clear thought. You turn and spot a small bird hopping from a branch. Only then does your mind write the story. Nothing's wrong. The order makes sense. Missing a real threat once could end a life, while false alarms just waste a moment. So the system chooses speed, not accuracy, then lets reason clean up. That's why fear can override a calm plan, even when the facts look safe. It isn't weakness or drama. It's an old rule, and it goes first. You also feel it when you stand to speak. You've practiced the words, you know the facts, yet your thoughts scatter before your name is called. The brain treats attention like a threat, so it fires the same early warning. The plan returns once the surge fades. Fear fires first. Logic follows. Social proof. People don't just follow rules. They follow each other, and that can feel like truth. It happens because your brain hates standing alone. When you're unsure, you look around and take a shortcut. If many people repeat a claim, it starts to feel familiar. And familiar feels safe, so it feels true. Imitating others lowers risk, gives quick relief, and hits a small reward loop. You get belonging, and your body counts that as proof. You see it in a bakery on a slow morning. 2 trays sit behind the glass, and one is half empty. You pick from the busy tray without thinking, warm air carrying a quiet scent of butter. The emptiness reads like a review you didn't ask for. A few choices become a cue, then a habit, then a story about which pastry is the good one. Footsteps make a path in grass the same way, turning softness into a trail. That's why early moves matter so much. A few loud claps stretch into a long applause. A row of stickers on one poster pulls more hands. Repeat a line often enough at the table, and the line sounds obvious by the end of the meeting. People seed numbers, plant cues, and let repetition do the heavy lifting. The crowd doesn't check the claim each time, it checks the count. Most of the time, nobody's lying on purpose. We're just easing doubt by borrowing each other's certainty. And in that loop, imitation becomes proof, and proof becomes control. Crowds don't change reality, they change what feels real. Repetition as truth. Say a line enough times, and it starts to feel true. Not because it changed, but because your mind relaxes around it. It's a neat trick, and it works on almost everyone. Each repeat makes the words easier to process. Your brain likes easy. Easy feels safe. Safe feels right. That's called fluency, the smooth slide of thought. When a sentence glides, you don't brace, you don't scan for edges. The small effort drops, and you get a tiny sigh of relief. That warm ease can pass for truth. Repetition also fakes a crowd. You hear the same idea in different moments, from different mouths, and it feels like agreement. It's one line, from one source, arriving again and again. Memory helps too. The path gets walked, the steps get quicker, and recall feels close. Close feels correct. Think of a team huddled in a bright room. The marker squeaks, chairs scrape, coffee steam hangs in the air. Someone in charge says we're safe with this plan. Later, a friend repeats it by the copier. At the next stand-up, it comes again, calm and steady. By the third time, people stop checking the risky parts. They nod, they skim, they move on. Nothing new appeared. Only the feeling did. That's why repetition is a quiet lever of control. It doesn't argue, it lulls. It turns heavy questions into smooth roads, like a path worn in grass. You think you chose certainty, but ease chose you. In the end, what we hear often becomes what we trust. Uncertainty bias. Uncertainty makes you easy to steer. When you're unsure, small signals feel huge. That's why the first confident nudge can feel like the right path. You move toward whatever feels steady. Your brain hates not knowing. It treats it like a small threat, so it starts scanning for safety. It wants a quick rule it can follow, a default, a label, a voice that sounds steady. The moment something promises clarity, you feel a tiny release. That warm drop is dopamine, the reward for picking a side. We copy the crowd, accept the default, and lean on confident faces. That's uncertainty bias. We give extra weight to whatever shrinks doubt, even if it doesn't prove much. You're in a grocery aisle, cool air on your arms. 2 jars look the same. You're stuck. Then you spot a small tag marked most popular under 1. You don't check the details. Your hand moves. A worker walks by and mentions that more people choose that jar. Their tone is calm, so your mind relaxes. The shelf at eye level starts to feel meant for you. A tiny hint becomes the whole map. That pull isn't a flaw. It's the brain-saving effort by guessing fast. When things feel shaky, clarity feels kind. So, we trade some freedom for a smoother path, often without noticing. Systems are built around that swap. Menus, simple labels, and neat rankings do the steering while you feel calm. Control often rides on the quick relief of a settled choice. False safety. Comfort can feel like safety. Sometimes it is, but false safety is different. It keeps you still while telling you you're fine. It happens because the brain loves the known. When you dodge a risk, you feel a small relief. That relief is dopamine, a small reward. It says, "Good job, stay here." So the habit grows. Ease starts to mean safe, and effort starts to mean danger. Your threat detector relaxes when things repeat, even if they're dull. Over time, your choices narrow, not by force, but by comfort's steady reward. Picture a quiet evening. You plan to try a class across town. You're at the table with a warm mug, a faint draft on your arm. The thought of travel feels heavy. The seat feels right. You list good reasons to wait. Maybe the class is full. Maybe you'll be late. You tell yourself you'll go next week. Nothing blocks you, but you don't move. Most systems understand this pull. They add cushions, perks, and smooth steps, so staying feels kind. They remove small frictions, then sell the calm. In time, you depend on that smooth path, because it's the only path you practice. It's not a trap with walls. It's a soft fence you can't see, where the only hard thing is leaving. False safety doesn't keep you safe. It keeps the loop safe. Control doesn't need force when comfort will do. It only needs to make change feel a bit colder than staying. Real safety is the freedom to move, even when comfort asks you not to. Dopamine leash. Your attention goes where it gets paid. Not with money, with tiny rewards, your brain tags with dopamine. It feels like a warm click, then a quiet pull toward the next one. Most of the time, you don't notice the pull. You just keep looking where it came from. Dopamine is a teaching signal. A small burst says, "That worked, do it again." A bigger burst says, "That was better than expected, remember the path." When rewards show up now and then, not every time, the lesson gets stronger. Your brain starts scanning for the cues, and your focus leans that way. Picture a noisy table with a few friends. You drop a light remark, someone laughs, and you feel quick relief in your chest. The room hums, a glass taps the wood, and you're already waiting for another opening. You stop hearing half the talk, because your attention is tracking the next chance to land that laugh again. Most systems know this without saying it. Little stars, progress bars, punch cards that promise one more stamp. A surprise win every so often holds your attention more than a steady stream. That rhythm teaches your nervous system to check, to hover, to keep coming back, even when you plan to leave. This isn't mind control in the movies. It's conditioning in small steps, your own chemistry linking simple cues to reward. Once you notice the pattern, the quiet pull makes sense, and you can tell what's guiding your focus and what's simply riding along. Guilt steering. Guilt doesn't shout, it nudges. It's a small hand on the wheel when you drift. People think it's punishment, but it's guidance. It keeps you in line with what you claim to care about. It happens because your brain tracks cause and effect. As a kid, you learned which acts hurt others and which built trust. Those rules sit inside you, ready to light up. When you cross one, your body tightens and a picture of the harm pops up. Act to fix it, and a warm relief follows. That relief is the reward, so that choice gets stronger. You see it on a plain morning, walking past a small shop. You remember you snapped at a friend last night. There's a pinch in your chest that won't relax. You step inside, a soft bell rings, and you buy a simple card. You write a quick note, and your shoulders drop a little. The feeling guides the next steps. You send the message. You make space to listen. You offer repair. Each move lowers the pressure, and your mind files the lesson. If you ignore it, the tightness lingers and leaks into other tasks. You're not cursed, you're being guided toward the fix. That's the difference between guilt and shame. Shame says you're bad and freezes you. Guilt says that the act was wrong and shows you where to turn. It works because relief teaches how to get back. It's the mind's way of moving you to repair, then letting you go. Mirror trick. Mirroring feels kind and smart. You match someone's posture, their tone, their pace. They warm up. You click faster. But there's a hidden cost. When you mirror, you let them steer. It happens because your brain loves similarity. We're wired to copy people near us. When you match someone, their body becomes the template for yours. Their speed sets your speed. Their calm or rush sets your state. Your mirror system fires, and it feels good to be in sync. That small hit of dopamine says, stay with them. So your focus shifts from your plan to their pattern. Control rides on that pattern. The person you mirror becomes the metronome. They choose the rhythm, and your choices start to fit that beat. You're not hypnotized, you're entrained. The frame of the moment, What matters? What's normal? What's next? Quietly moves to their side. You see it at a small table, late morning, cups tapping the saucers. A friend talks fast about a new plan. They lean in, hands moving. You lean too. Their sentences stack. Yours do as well. The door opens, a cool draft slides in, and you nod along. You hear yourself say, "Sure, let's do it." You wanted a slow weekend, but the fast rhythm felt right in that chair. That's the mirror trick. It builds trust, and it moves the center of the room. When you mirror, you trade a bit of choice for closeness. Not good or bad, just how people work. The one you mirror becomes the one who sets the pace. Inherited scripts. You learned a script before you had words. Be good, be quiet, say yes. It felt normal, and it kept you safe. It happens because kids trade obedience for care. When you followed the rules, faces softened, doors opened, dinner came on time. When you pushed back, the room tightened. Your brain linked yes with relief. That little hit of dopamine, that warm drop in your chest, became the reward. Over time, the lines stuck, and the body remembered them faster than thought. You see it, later, in simple rooms. The marker squeaks on a whiteboard, the air vent hums, and someone at the front says, "We need quick agreement." You're ready to ask a hard question, but a firm tone lands, and your shoulders tuck in. You nod. You speak soft. You promise to handle it, even if your week is full. The old script did its job before you could weigh the cost. It shows up at home too. A friend's voice gets sharp, and you say, "Sorry" first, just to smooth the air. You take on chores no one assigned. You reply with, "It's fine," even when it isn't. Most people don't notice this switch. They just feel the urge to keep peace, and the small fear of disappointing anyone who's uncertain. This isn't weakness. It's conditioning tied to safety, repeated until it felt like you. That's why adults obey rules they never chose and defend them like truth. A childhood script can still decide who says yes. Conformity comfort. Conformity feels safer than going alone. When you match the group, your body relaxes. It happens because we're social animals built for tribes. In the past, being out of step meant being left out, and being left out meant danger. Your brain still tracks that. When people nod with you, you get a small hit of dopamine, that warm relief that says, "You're okay here." At the same time, the threat system quiets. There's less risk of conflict, less risk of blame. Shared rules also shrink the work of choosing. You don't have to test every path when a path is already marked. You see it in simple moments. You're at a meeting, the soft buzz of voices in the air. A question comes, hands start to rise. You wait half a beat, then lift yours too. The choice feels light in your chest. The group moves as one, and you move with it. Independence asks for proof and for risk. If you stand apart and it goes wrong, the result sits with you. That's heavy. Conformity spreads the weight. If everyone chose it, then no one stands alone with the blame. And it gives your mind a simple script to follow, like stepping into a marked lane on a busy road. Most people do this without noticing, especially when the stakes feel unclear. In uncertainty, harmony beats accuracy because harmony feels safer. That's why the pull is so strong, even for confident people. It isn't weakness. It's an old safety rule still running in a modern world. Edited memory. Your memory isn't a camera. It's an editor that keeps you comfortable. It keeps the parts that fit who you are. It fades the rest. It happens because remembering isn't replay. It's rebuild. Each time you recall a moment, the brain writes it again. Scientists call that reconsolidation. If a detail brings that tight feeling when facts don't match your story, the brain trims it. That drop in tension gives a small hit of dopamine, a warm relief. The mind likes that feeling, so it learns to smooth the story that lets you feel in control. You see it when you pass a cafe where you argued with a friend. There's the soft clink of cups, a drift of steam, the hum of traffic outside. In your head, your voice sounds calmer now. Their words seem harsher, or at least less fair. By the time you tell the story that night, you were measured, you had reasons, and it wasn't really your choice to push it. The next time you remember, the scene follows that version, not the raw one. This isn't lying, it's maintenance. The brain wants a steady picture of you, so it sands down sharp edges. A late decision turns into a thoughtful wait. A lucky break becomes careful planning. A bad call becomes a lesson you meant to learn. The edits protect comfort, and they protect control. That's the quiet trade. You get a stable story, but lose some of the sting that kept the memory honest. Memory serves the version that keeps your hands on the wheel. Normality Field. Your mind keeps things feeling normal. The day stays steady, even when something odd slips in. It's quiet work, and you rarely notice it. That's by design. It works on predictions. Your brain guesses what comes next. If something fits the guess, it passes through. If it doesn't, and it doesn't touch your safety or your goal, it gets set aside or dropped. That saves energy and keeps the feeling of control in place. There's a small reward when things match, a warm relief that says, all good. Surprise costs attention, and attention is limited, so your brain works hard. People call this normalcy bias and change blindness. Big terms for simple moves. You miss small parts, you treat tiny errors as fine. You ignore the odd thing that would slow you down. Most days it helps. Some days it hides the signal you needed. You visit a friend's place. The fridge used to sit by the door. It's now on the other wall. You talk, you set a cup down, and feel cool air from an open window. 20 minutes pass before your friend laughs and points. You blink, then you see it, and your memory shifts to fit. For those first minutes, your mind kept the room normal. It held the old fridge in the old spot, and your day stayed easy. That's the trade. The mind keeps the story of control tidy, even if it erases what doesn't fit. It feels like seeing clearly, but it's really careful editing. Need to be right. When someone needs to be right, they stop being surprising. You can guess their next move before they make it. It happens because the brain treats being wrong like danger. Status feels at risk. Identity feels touched, and the body wants relief. So it reaches for the fastest comfort, that small hit of dopamine that comes from defending a stance. People search for friendly facts, ignore the rest, and shift to safer ground if the point gets shaky. If that fails, they go after the source, the tone, or the timing. The pattern is simple, and simple things repeat. You see it at a quiet table, soft clink of a spoon against a cup. A friend claims a detail from a story, and you mention a different version. Their shoulders tighten. They list reasons, bring up a past example, and narrow the point to the one part they can win. When you answer that, they widen it again, or say the whole topic never mattered. If you make a small slip, they hold it up, like proof the whole thing falls apart. The room stays gentle, but the steps unfold the same way every time. That need to be right turns choices into a track. Others can see the rails and plan around them. Say one thing, they'll double down. Say another, they'll pivot. Say nothing, they'll claim victory. In trying to hold control, they give it away, because their pattern becomes the handle anyone can grab. Needing to be right is a cage that locks from the inside. Predictable behaviour is easy to lead, even when it feels like standing firm. Disapproval fear. Fear of disapproval controls people better than punishment. A small frown, a raised eyebrow, can stop you faster than a rule or a fine. You feel it in your chest before you think. We're built to belong. Being pushed out risks safety, food, and help. And your old brain still treats it like danger. That's why a cold face lights the same alarm your body uses for pain. Approval brings warm relief, a small hit of dopamine. Disapproval brings threat, and your body tightens. Punishment is clear and rare, so you wait for it and move on. Disapproval is fuzzy and constant, so you watch yourself all the time. In a meeting room, the air hums. Last week, you spoke up and someone sighed. No one said you were wrong. They just looked away. Today, you hold your idea and pick safe words instead. You nod when others nod and match their tone. A chair scrapes and you rehearse the line you won't say. People use this without trying. Families, schools, teams, all set unspoken limits you don't want to break. No one needs to shout. The hint of a cool face keeps you careful. That's why it works better than punishment. Punishment ends once it happens, but disapproval hangs over your choices before you act. Fear of disapproval is a quiet leash. Dependent freedom. Freedom often feels brightest when something is helping you. It's strange, but the easier a choice gets, the more it feels like your own. That happens because your brain saves energy. It likes low effort, clean steps, and quick wins. When a path is smooth, dopamine gives a small yes, and you're more likely to take it again. Over time, the easy option becomes the default. People who design things know this. They take away friction, and that quiet relief keeps you close. You see it in small places. You walk in a park and reach a fork. One path is even and dry, with soft shade and steady foot traffic. Another is uneven, with roots and a bit of mud. You pick the smooth one without thinking. It feels obvious. After a few days, it's the only route you consider. If it's closed for repairs, you feel oddly stuck, standing in warm air, listening to the crunch of gravel stop. That's dependence hiding inside freedom. You can choose anything, but the structure around you points to one choice. The sign, the surface, the way it's maintained. Each piece nudges you, and your mind thanks it for making life simple. Then it asks for the same help tomorrow. This isn't good or bad on its own. Ease gives you time and calm, and that matters. But it also quietly shapes what you want, and when you want it. Freedom can be real, even when it leans on help, as long as you can still feel which part is the help. Engineered boredom. Boredom isn't a glitch. It's a lever that brings you back. Your brain loves novelty and hates dead air. When things get predictable, dopamine drops, and you feel restless. Smart systems use that dip. They space tiny rewards between long, quiet stretches. The quiet becomes a cue, and the next small hit feels like relief. If everything was exciting all the time, you'd quit fast. So they keep it mild, steady, and just a bit incomplete. It's paced like this on purpose, so it stretches across days. You see it in a grocery promo. Cool air, a soft beep at the register, a smile at checkout. They're running a sticker offer for a pan. You get one sticker for every set amount, and your card fills slow. Some weeks there's a double day, or a bonus sticker at the counter. Most trips are dull, but you carry that half-full sheet home and plan the next visit. One more trip isn't exciting, but it moves the meter, and that feels like progress. Boredom is doing the heavy lifting. It builds a small tension your mind wants to resolve. The system sells the relief, one small step at a time. You mistake that brief relief for value, so the cycle feels worth it. In the end, engineered boredom keeps you returning on schedule. Pleasure of control. Control doesn't only come from fear, it comes from pleasure. Every time you make something bend to your plan, your body rewards you. That good feeling teaches you to do it again. It happens because the brain likes patterns that pay off. A small hit of dopamine, that warm relief when things line up, marks the moment as good. Your mind tags the steps before it, the tiny moves that got you here. Next time you're tense, it suggests the same steps. You feel a pull to repeat because your system expects the same relief. You feel it when you take clothes from the warm dryer. You fold one shirt, edges match, palm smooths the fabric. A stack forms, neat and square, with a soft thud as it settles. The drawer slides shut with a clean sound. Your shoulders drop, and without thinking, you look for one more thing to straighten. Most people don't see the loop. They just call it being tidy, or careful, or in charge. But the loop is simple. Cue, control, relief, repeat. Over time, you reach for control whenever your chest tightens. The world shrinks a little, and uncertainty feels louder, but the reward stays sweet. That's why control can become a habit that feeds itself. Control sticks because it feels good. Invisible contracts. Most of your day runs on invisible contracts. You agree to things you never signed. They sit between people like thin air that still has weight. That's how groups keep order without saying it out loud. You follow them because they feel normal. It happens because your brain hates loose ends. Predictable roles cut down noise. Favors and small signals teach you what gets approval. A smile, a quick thanks, and your reward loop kicks in. You link the action to belonging, and the rule sticks. Your nervous system calls it safe, so you repeat it. Soon it feels like the only way to act. Then control shows up. Someone becomes the planner. Someone pays first. Someone always says yes. Once you're seen that way, saying no feels risky. We like to match yesterday's promise, even when today changed. The pattern holds, and the room waits for you to do it. Picture a quiet break room. The fridge hums, and the mug's handle is warm in your hand. You wipe the counter, even if you didn't make the crumbs. Last week, it caused a small issue when it was left dirty. Now there's a rule, and you follow it without being told. Invisible contracts aren't good or bad. They help people move together smoothly, but they shape choices more than you notice. When you see them, you see what's shaping your choices. Naming a contract doesn't break it. It gives you a choice. Most control is held by the agreements we don't name. Bureaucratic fatigue. Bureaucracy doesn't win by power. It wins by wearing you down. When you're tired, you stop asking why, you ask what and where. It's like walking upstream, slow and simple, but always against a push. It works by adding tiny costs, a form you don't understand, a new line, a stamp. Each piece feels minor, so you keep going. Your brain looks for the shortest path to relief. That's decision fatigue, when too many small choices make your mind tired. Unclear rules make you guess, then guess again. The delay turns your time into their leverage. And because you've already waited, sunk cost nudges you to accept the next step. You're not convinced. You're just done. You see it at a public office on a warm afternoon. The light buzzes overhead. A rubber stamp thuds, steady as a clock. You move from window to window, signing the same details on fresh paper. A clerk says you're missing one document, but someone else said it wasn't needed. You start to raise your voice. Then you feel the day on your shoulders. So you nod, take the new form, and agree to come back. Most people learn the same lesson. Don't question, just complete the step in front of you. It saves energy now, and that's the hook. The system doesn't need your belief, only your patience. Over time, obedience becomes the cheaper choice, and resistance becomes a luxury. In the end, the easiest path becomes the rule you follow. Myth of merit. People love the idea that the best rise. It makes a steep ladder feel fair. It sticks because the brain wants a just world, where effort matches reward. That story lowers worry. It gives a sense of control. If winners earned it, anyone could, with grit. There's also a self-serving bias at work. When you do well, your mind says, that was skill, not luck. That small hit of pride feels good, so the story repeats. But life stacks the deck in quiet ways. Some start with time, tutors, and calm rooms. Others start with noise, debt, and tired eyes. Early praise creates more chances, so advantages snowball. Gatekeepers lean toward familiar faces because similarity feels safe. Measures aren't pure either. Metrics can be gamed, and they miss the parts that don't fit the form. You see it in a simple scene. Two students study for the same exam. One has a desk, a lamp, and silence with a soft fluorescent hum. The other shares a couch, takes late shifts at a bakery, and comes home smelling like warm bread. Scores land. A scholarship picks the top. The letter says merit, but conditions did half the work. Merit isn't fake, it's just partial. Skill and effort matter, and so do doors and timing. The myth turns a complex system into a neat tale, then uses that tale to defend the order. It blames individuals for outcomes they never fully controlled. Seeing the scaffolding doesn't make effort useless. It only makes the picture honest. Predictable power. Control gets easier when things are predictable. You don't need force when people can guess the next step. That's because the brain rewards patterns. When a system repeats, your mind makes a shortcut. You stop weighing every option, and you follow the cue. A small hit of relief says, this is the right move. Over time, one clear rule can shape 1,000 actions. Fewer choices, faster flow, less friction. You see it in a cafeteria line. A metal rail guides your tray, cool under your hand. Bowls come first, then greens, then warm dishes under light steam. You move left to right without thinking. If the desserts sit near the end, you're already full when you reach them. Switch the order for a week, and the whole room eats differently. No one told anyone what to do. The layout did the talking. Most systems do this. Turnstiles beep the same way, so you tap, step, and go. A form puts the yes box where your eye lands, so you tick it. A bus route keeps the same stops, so your feet line up in the same place. Because the world is steady, your behaviour is steady. And if the system wants a change, it tweaks one moment everyone meets. A fee moves by a click. A message shifts by a line. The pattern catches the crowd. Predictability looks kind, like help, and it often is, but it also concentrates power. It hides inside paths, pauses, and timing. It's the quiet lever that moves whole groups with very little push. When the path is the same each time, the path decides. Rewarded submission. Obedience gets rewarded more than initiative. People say they want bold ideas, but they praise the person who says yes. You feel it in small moments, not big slogans. It happens because control loves things that go as planned. When you follow a plan, the path is known. The person in charge can relax. They don't have to defend a new choice. We hate losses more than we love wins, so new ideas feel risky. A small hit of dopamine lands with quick praise. The payoff for initiative is slower, and it asks for more work from others. It can stir status worries or force a change to the schedule. Most systems track speed and errors, not original thought. So the reward loop trains you to submit. Picture a community hall before a talk. Cool air, a faint echo, chairs sliding on the floor. Someone starts a new layout to make sightlines better. The person running it frowns, and they're told to set them the old way. Time's short. The fast follower gets a nod and a thank you. The one who tried something learns not to try it here. Everyone sees which act fits the system. After a while, smart people stop offering unasked ideas. They wait for permission, then they move fast. The place stays calm, but it stays the same. Leaders feel in control and workers feel safe, but the cost hides under the surface. Initiative turns into a risk, not a gift. That's why obedience gets the easy praise. It protects time, status, and blame. In many rooms, the surest reward goes to the person who makes nothing harder. Urgency illusion. Urgency makes almost anything feel important. When time feels tight, your attention snaps to it. Your chest tightens, your focus narrows. It feels urgent, so it feels big. It feels like the only thing that matters. It happens because the brain treats time pressure like a threat. Adrenaline rises, breath gets short, muscles get ready. The mind uses speed as a shortcut for value. And when you finish the urgent thing, you get a warm drop of relief. That drop is dopamine, the small reward that says, "Good job." So your mind learns a loop. Fast means important. Relief means proof. You see it at a desk on a quiet morning. You plan to shape a long, careful idea that would help next month. The printer starts to whir. A folder lands on your papers with a red sticker. Someone wants a quick turn, today. Your hand goes to the folder before you even think. The edges feel rough, and the plan slips to the side. Most people do this without noticing. Urgent work pushes important work to the back. It feels safer because it's clear and near. You can finish it, get the hit, and move on. Important work is slower, and that makes it feel uncertain. That's why a day can be full and still feel thin. The loud thing won, not the real thing. Urgency is like a fire alarm. Importance is a slow clock. Both matter in a life, but they're not the same. The feeling of rush isn't proof of worth. Public rules. Public rules feel fair. They calm people down. They promise everyone the same deal. But control often lives in the small exceptions. It happens because rules are visible and exceptions are private. Your brain locks onto what's posted, so you stop looking for what's not. The default is clear, and that's useful. But someone still decides when to bend it and who gets the special pass. The sign is a stage prop. The real moves happen off stage. That quiet choice carries more power than the poster. Think about a community pool, chlorine in the air. A sign on the gate says, "No guests on weekends." You show up with a friend and wait. A regular walks in with a cousin, and the guard waves them through. When you ask, they point at the sign and shrug. You leave without a scene, because the rule is clear. Most people only see the sign, so they don't ask. People mention exceptions quietly. The staff know, and the regulars know. They call it case by case, or manager's choice. The rule shapes behaviour for the many. The quiet yes decides what happens for the few. If someone complains, people blame the policy. You see this in shops, offices, clubs, and parks. Public rules guide the crowd. Private exceptions sort people. That's where status, trust, and favors get traded, one small nod at a time. Control doesn't live in the poster. It lives in the person who can make the exception. That's the simple truth behind most smooth systems. Progress illusion. Progress feels exciting, especially when it gets a new name. But sometimes the name moves and the work doesn't. You feel a jump, like something changed, even when the pattern stays put. It happens because the brain loves novelty. A fresh label gives a small hit of dopamine, that quick, warm relief. Language lets us feel like we started over, while the steps stay the same. People in charge use this, and so do we. We call a rule a challenge, and it feels chosen. We call the next phase a launch, and the old routine looks new. Think about a team around a whiteboard in the morning light. Last month, it was a meeting. This month, it's a huddle. The marker squeaks, the same tasks move from left to right. New words fill the room, but the deadlines and trade-offs don't budge. People nod, someone clicks a pen, and everyone feels momentum. At home, the same thing happens. You rename a chore a reset, and it feels cleaner. You call a strict budget a plan, and it feels kinder. A tough rule becomes a challenge, so it feels like choice. The words make it sound easier, but the cost is the same. Most people do this without noticing, because it keeps energy from dropping. You see the trick. Language can hide repetition. It's new paint on the same wall. Real progress shows up when the decisions change and the steps change with them. You notice it in what stops, not just what's renamed. When the pattern changes, the words don't need to. Hierarchy of attention. Attention builds a quiet order inside any group. You can feel it without trying. The person who draws the eyes sets the pace, and everyone else takes their cue. It happens because attention is scarce, and your brain treats it like value. Being noticed gives a small hit of relief, and being ignored stings. We also watch where other people look, a simple shortcut for what matters. That shared gaze stacks people into rings, center, near, and edge. The center speaks more, gets faster feedback, and learns the room. Each turn feeds the next one, a tight reward loop. You see it early. A child answers, the adult smiles, and every kid tracks that smile. They learn where safety sits. As adults, we still map rooms this way. Chair height, voice volume, and a well-timed pause pull focus. Even a small head turn can nudge the order. The person who can pause without being cut off often feels like the leader, because scarcity makes attention feel warm, like heat around a small fire. Picture a long table outdoors, plates clinking, soft evening air. A friend arrives late, the chairs shift, bodies angle toward them. You say something from the side, it drifts past. A beat later, the new center says the same thing. Heads nod. You feel it in your chest, a small drop, then a shrug. Not anger, just the order shifting. That's the quiet order attention creates. It isn't fair, and it isn't fixed. It moves with timing, confidence, and numbers. People chase it because it feels like safety and reward. In most rooms, control starts where eyes settle. Algorithmic government. Most days, you follow a plan you didn't make. Algorithms quietly set the order, and it still feels like choice. You're free, but you're on rails you don't notice. They watch tiny signals in what you do, where you pause, what you skip, when you stop. Then they guess what will keep you here one moment longer. They move easy buttons to the front and hard ones out of reach. That's control, by making some things easy and others slow, and it trains you. A small hit of dopamine makes it feel right, so the loop keeps turning. Picture a cool morning, shoes tapping on the path. Your map suggests a detour, 2 minutes faster, so you turn without thinking. Music autoplays a track that matches your pace, and your steps quicken. At the cafe, the screen shows 3 tip buttons, the middle one bright, and your thumb lands there. Steam hisses, and you're already out the door. Order saved for next time. Systems like this don't care if you feel free. They care about a score they can measure. Time on screen, trips per hour, how many people quit this week. When a number moves, the system nudges harder. The top row changes, and behaviour follows. Nothing forced you, but the path was shaped. Scale that across millions of people, all day, and that's a kind of government. Not law, but defaults, rankings, and prices that steer. It's helpful, and it's efficient, and it shapes how a city moves. It also decides what you see first and what you never meet. Control feels like choice when it guides the path, not the decision. Digital empathy. Digital empathy feels close, but it's built to be clean. A heart, a quick reaction, a fast reply. Each one calms you, then steers you. It works because platforms turn care into signals, little badges and numbers. Your brain likes small, certain rewards. Dopamine fires, and your worry drops. There's no awkward pause, no breath to sit with. The system trims the mess, then feeds you the part that holds you. Tools shape the tone too. Auto-replies suggest gentle words. A row of faces you can tap instead of speak. Even the typing bubble guides your hope. Feeds learn which moods keep you here, so they nudge toward feelings they can manage. Picture a late evening. You're drained after a hard talk. You type a messy paragraph to a friend, then the phone buzzes. A suggested line appears, the kind that says, "It sounds hard." You tap it. A care reaction lands, a small vibration in your hand. You feel seen, so you delete the long part and send a neat line, and the chat moves on. That's how digital empathy replaces connection, while it guides emotion. It eases the edge, measures the moment, and keeps you inside the rails. Real care is slower and uneven, and it lets feelings breathe. This one is tidy, and it shows you the shape it wants. Creator compliance. Control on platforms rarely looks like rules. It feels like soft nudges that shape you. As a creator, you call it learning your audience. The system calls it staying in line. You post, the dashboard answers fast. A spike, a badge, a note about people staying longer. Numbers give you that small hit of dopamine. Variable rewards keep you checking. The algorithm lifts what keeps eyes longer and lowers what loses them. You adjust titles, timing, and tone. You move toward what's rewarded and trim what's punished. Over time, the map in your head changes shape. You're at a quiet desk, a fan hums, morning light across the keys. You try a slow story, the graph dips at 5 seconds. Comments are kind, but reach is thin. Next day, you open with a big reveal. Watch time jumps. A tip bubble suggests more like that. You shorten pauses, cut side thoughts, repeat the winning phrase. A notification cheers a milestone, and you feel a small lift. You tell a friend it's just strategy, but your choices moved with the meter. That's compliance without orders. The rule sits inside your taste, so it feels like yours. It's not good or bad on its own. It's design meeting human wiring. The loop trains, you refine, and the line between art and tactic fades. In the end, control arrives quietly, wearing your voice. Emotional tax. Some balances don't sit on trust. They rest on a fee you pay to keep things calm. That fee is the emotional tax. You pay it in small ways, so the day doesn't break. You hold your tongue, soften your tone, laugh at a sharp line, take on one more task. The relief you feel is quick and warm, a tiny hit of dopamine. Your brain marks that as success. It learns the rule. Pay a little now, avoid a big storm later. The cost is predictable, and the storm isn't, so people start to accept the rate. You see it in a meeting room with stale coffee and a soft vent hum. Someone with more sway makes a tight joke at your edge. You feel the comeback rise, then you swallow it. You nod, you write a note. You offer to fix the issue after. Pens click, chairs shift. The moment passes. Everyone relaxes. They call it smooth teamwork. You paid for that smoothness with your feelings, and the room took the win. It works because the group rewards the person who keeps the peace. You get the small reward too, that quick calm in your chest. Over time, the tax sets the shape of the room. The payer gets careful and smaller. The collector learns they can push and does. The surface stays flat, but the weight underneath moves to one side. This is how control hides in plain sight. What looks like balance is often a ledger, keeping track of who pays and who gets to move. Harmless rebellion. You rebel in tiny ways. It feels bold, but it's safe. You change a small thing you can reach, and the rest stays the same. Most people do this without thinking. You get to say no without risking a real no. It eases the tight feeling, so it's hard to question. That's the trick of it. It looks like movement, but it's a shuffle in place. It happens because your brain wants relief. When a rule squeezes you, you push back. You pick a target that won't cost much. That small win gives a little dopamine, a quick, warm drop of control. Psychologists call it reactance, the urge to push when someone limits you. The push vents the pressure like a valve, and the system keeps humming. Picture a meeting where a new rule lands. It feels unfair, but the room is quiet. You slide your chair back, the legs scrape once, and you don't raise your hand. You circle a word in your notes too hard. Later, you follow the rule, but a bit slower, just to show you could resist. The lights give a faint buzz, and your chest settles. That's how harmless rebellion buys peace without change. The small act tells your body, you acted, you're not trapped. The bigger problem waits untouched. Then the same feeling builds again, and you repeat the habit. It keeps the day moving, and the rules keep their shape. It's not good or bad by itself. It's just a loop that cools the feeling while the structure stays in place. Mass individuality. People feel most themselves when they stand out, even inside a crowd. But in big groups, the look of difference is easy to copy. Mass individuality lets everyone feel unique while moving the same way. It happens because people copy without thinking. We mirror posture, clothes, even moods. The brain gives a small warm hit when we match the group. That soft dopamine keeps us near the pack, and the world lines up paths for us. Stores, trends, and smart systems pre-sort choices into tidy lanes. You pick a lane that matches your taste, and it feels free. But the lane is still a lane. You see it at a weekend market. There's a low hum of voices, and a light breeze lifts the corner of a tag. You reach for a jacket with a loud print. A friend picks the same cut in a calm earth tone. 10 people leave that stall feeling singular, each with a different colour. Later, they pass on the street and nod at each other, not seeing the match, only the shade. This isn't a trick to shame you. It's how groups keep peace, and how minds save effort. Most choice lives inside rails, and that's fine. The honest part is noticing the rails while you move. In a crowd, your shape is yours, but the edges come from others. Economic dependence. People don't obey ideas, they obey paychecks. When your living depends on someone, control stops looking like force and starts looking like, this is just how it is. It happens because access to money is a gate. The person who holds the gate doesn't need to shout. They just set terms. Your brain reads the risk, fast. Losing hurts more than winning feels good, so you protect what you have. A small hit of relief when the gate opens, a tight knot when it narrows. Reward and threat teach you the pattern. You see it in small choices at work. The fluorescent light hums, and your boss hints about staying late. Rent is due, so you smile and say you can. You swallow a question in the meeting, because reviews are next month. You laugh at a joke you don't find funny, because the room is watching. No one forced you, but the path felt safer, so you walked it. It shows up outside work too. A landlord keeps raising the rent, and you don't complain, because moving costs more than you can risk. A partner pays most bills, and their opinion starts to feel like a rule. A platform changes a fee, and people change their hours to keep up. Nice pay and neat perks can do the same thing. The soft pull of golden handcuffs. This isn't about weak people. It's about predictable minds in tight systems. Dependence turns choices into conditions, and conditions turn into quiet obedience. Control grows where options shrink, and money is the soil that makes it stick. Soft prison. Comfort keeps you safe, but it also keeps you still. The easy thing, done often, starts to feel like the only thing. That's when comfort begins to hold you, softly. Your brain loves predictable relief. When something is warm, familiar, and low effort, you get a small hit of dopamine for picking it. You also dodge the sharp stress spike of risk. Over time, your nervous system links comfort with safety. It builds a habit loop. Status quo bias steps in. Loss feels heavier than gain. So, you stay. The longer you stay, the smaller the world feels. Options fade, not because they aren't there, but because you stop looking. Picture a weekday evening. A mug of tea warms your hands, and rain ticks softly on the glass. There's a chair. You planned to try a community class across town. You even checked the route. Then you feel the pull to settle. You say you'll go next week. You open a book you've read before, and time slips. That's the loop doing its job. You chose less friction. Comfort isn't bad. It heals you and saves energy. The trap is when relief becomes the goal every time. The brain starts to protect the routine, not you. It treats change like danger. So even a small step feels huge. And the limits don't look like limits. They look like taste, or saying this suits you, or telling yourself maybe later. This is how comfort ends up holding you, built from tiny yeses to ease. You're still free, but freedom gets heavier when you carry it like that. Institutional survival. Institutions don't chase brilliance first. They chase what they can count on. Predictable work wins, even when it's only okay. It happens because groups need plans they can share. Budgets, schedules, and reputations don't like surprise. So they build rules, steps, and metrics. Plans need handoffs, and handoffs need standards. Hit the target, get the reward. Miss it, even for a smart reason, and you feel heat. Predictable work makes blame simple, which keeps fear low. Your brain learns that pattern fast. That small hit of dopamine lands when you follow the template. Picture a Monday meeting in a quiet room, air humming overhead. A teammate pitches a bold change. People lean back. They pause. The manager nods, then asks for proof, timelines, and risk. Another person slides a familiar plan across the table, last year's numbers copied clean. That one gets a quick yes, not because it's better, but because it fits the calendar. It plugs into the software and matches the reporting cycle. This is slow pressure that picks winners. Institutions are like rail tracks that keep the trains steady. Safety comes from staying on the line. Outliers meet friction. Promotions go to people who remove surprises. Procedures spread. New ideas survive only when they're broken into steps, priced and timed. You see it in schools, hospitals, and offices. The message is simple. Show what can be forecast. So people sand their edges and make their work look smooth. The real mess still exists, but it stays out of view. Soon, people time their risks to the end of the month. That's how the thing keeps going. In the end, survival favors what stays the same. Mood engineering. Most moods feel personal. In many public spaces, they're shaped on purpose. The goal is simple. Keep buying steady, not spiking or stopping. A calm mood keeps money flowing, day after day. People spend more when they feel safe and mildly up. Too much excitement makes choices rash. Too much stress makes people freeze or leave. So designers tune the room for a gentle, warm state. Low arousal, easy focus, a slow dose of dopamine. It keeps the reward loop running without drama. No sharp highs, no hard stops. It turns hard choices into many small yeses. The comfort feels like care, but it's steering. You walk into a grocery store. The lights are warm, not harsh. A slow song hums in the background. You aren't rushed. Aisles curve, so there's no clear end. Items sit at eye level, so choosing feels easy. You add one small thing, then another. Time feels slower, and your plans open a little. You tell yourself you'll be quick, and you keep moving. It feels like your idea, because nothing pushes, nothing alarms. The same idea runs online. A service smooths your feed, mixing small wins with mild novelty. Enough to hold you, never enough to exhaust you. Prices nudge, colors soften, timers stretch. If you drift, a soft nudge brings you back. The mood stays even, and so does your use. That's why engineered moods feel kind, yet firm. They lower noise, so spending stays predictable. It's not about joy, it's about stability. When your state is managed, your choices become regular. It's a quiet form of control. Awareness. Weakens. Control. Control works best when you're not looking. It slips in through habits, not loud commands. Your brain loves speed. It guesses. It fills gaps. It saves effort. That's perfect for walking, cooking, and small routines. It's also how a lot of influence works. A little cue starts a well-worn loop, and you act before you feel the choice. When you notice the cue, the loop stutters. The pause turns a push into a suggestion. Even that small hit of dopamine, the warm relief of going along, fades a bit. You see it in a simple meeting. Someone asks for volunteers, then leaves a long, heavy silence. The room is still. You hear a chair leg scrape, and the urge to speak climbs fast. That silence is a lever. But if you name it in your head, the pull weakens. You feel the floor under your feet. You breathe once, and the need to fill the gap drops. You may still help, but now it's a choice, not a reflex to end the tension. It happens with scarcity too. Only a few left presses on fear of missing out. When you call it scarcity, the fear drops a notch. Your attention shifts from the bait to the line. You can weigh what you want, not what the moment wants from you. Awareness doesn't erase influence. It just adds a tiny bit of space, and that space changes the math. That's why control hates light. Once you can see the lever, it stops moving you. Noticing the strings. Control works best when it's hidden. The second you spot the pattern, it loosens. You don't need to fight it to feel that change. Our brains run on shortcuts and cues. Colors, phrases, and tiny rewards nudge you along. Seeing others do it pulls. Scarcity speeds you up. A big number sets the tone, and you drift near it. Default options funnel choices, and you slide into the slot waiting for you. These moves build a quiet reward loop that feels like your idea. When you name the trick, your attention steps in. The loop stutters, and a small gap opens. In that gap, your body changes first. Your shoulders drop, your breath slows. The urge loses its edge because the surprise is gone. Dopamine follows expectation, and you just change the expectation. That's why seeing it reduces the pull. You're in a grocery aisle with bright stacked displays at the aisle end and loud sale tags. A small sign says today only, and a friendly hand hovers. The fridge hums. A cartwheel squeaks near your heel. You feel the tug to take two and hurry on. You notice the pattern. Urgency plus free taste, plus seeing others nod. Your hand pauses, then you pick one, or none, and roll on. You didn't fight a battle, you shifted stance. Seeing the strings doesn't cut them, like spotting the wires above a stage. It lets you move with your own timing, not theirs. Most days, that small beat is enough to keep shape. You're still in the scene, but you're not being steered. Emotional leashes. Most obedience doesn't come from orders, it comes from feelings. A look, a pause, a tone, and you move. The leash isn't in a hand, it's in your chest. You don't notice the tug, you just aim for comfort. You learn to step toward what soothes and away from what stings. It happens because your brain links actions to emotion. Approval gives a small hit of dopamine, a warm drop of relief. Disapproval brings the threat system online. Your shoulders tense before you think. Over time, that pairing turns into a rule you don't say out loud. Go where relief waits. Avoid where shame lives. In groups, that's even stronger. Belonging feels safe, and safety wins fast. Over many small moments, your nervous system learns what leads to ease. You see it in a meeting, the air steady and cool. You start to share a hard thought, and the person at the end of the table blinks, then smiles. Your chest loosens, so you keep going the right way. Later, someone frowns, eyes drop to the notes, and your voice softens on its own. You offer to take the extra task. You nod along. The room stays calm, and so do you. Most people obey long before anyone asks. We carry past reactions, like small weights, and they shape our path. Even alone, you can feel the pull of imagined faces, and you steer to avoid that old sting. It's quiet, it's quick, and it rarely feels forced. Control that feels like relief is still control. Freedom in boredom. Boredom feels like nothing, but when attention is your leash, nothing is freedom. In that quiet gap, no one else is steering you. Most hooks run on novelty. Each change gives a small hit of dopamine, so you keep chasing the next change. Your brain loves quick rewards, and it tags them as important. After many hits, your normal level drops, and calm things feel flat. That loop trains your hands and eyes. It narrows what you notice, and it speeds your pace. When everything feels urgent, it's easy to be led. In calm moments, the spikes fade, and choice comes back. It happens because reward needs timing. A cue appears, then the prize lands. When the cue shows up without the prize, the habit loosens. Space gives your planning brain room to work. It can choose, not just react. Boredom does that. With nothing new arriving, the loop breaks and the urge passes. Picture a hallway bench. The air vent has a soft hum. An afternoon light slides across the floor. Your hand twitches toward your pocket, then stops. A minute stretches. Your mind wanders, then settles on one clear thought. You remember something you care about, without a ping telling you. You decide to wait a little longer, just because you chose it. You feel the pull ease. You can stand, or sit, or let the thought go. You see it in many dull waits. The empty stretch isn't dead time, it's unclaimed time. That's where attention returns to you, and pressure drops away. Boredom, used by no one, quietly gives you your choices back. In this small silence, control feels simple again. Rebellion paradox. Rebellion feels like freedom, but it often rebuilds the same cage it escapes. It trades who says no, not how no works. The signs flip, the power shifts, and the shape stays. It happens because the brain loves clear lines. Breaking a rule gives a small hit of dopamine, and now the rule still sets the beat. When you define yourself by what you're not, that thing still guides your choices. Opposition keeps attention locked, and attention is a kind of control. The old rules stay in your head, even when you reverse them. Groups need order to survive pushback, so boundaries harden fast. Status creeps in, leaders appear, and the same pattern returns with new people. You leave a strict club and start your own. No leaders, no long forms, just trust. You meet in a garage, concrete under your feet, a box fan humming. At first, it's easy and loose. People want things to run, so someone always takes the role. Then, someone keeps the calendar because no one else will. Another person sets quick norms so meetings don't drag. Soon, there's a list for who speaks, a tone rule, a vote rule, a punishment. You look around and see the same faces in charge, only without titles. You see this in homes, in teams, in movements. We trade one set of rules for another and think the job's done. We call it different, and we repeat the moves. That's why rebellion fixes one feeling and keeps another. Control moves to new hands, and the rules come back with small changes. In the end, a cage inverted is still a cage. Curiosity disrupts. Control needs certainty to feel strong. Curiosity breaks that without a fight. When you get curious, the grip loosens, and the next moment opens a little. Control is a tight loop of prediction and relief. Your mind says, this will happen, then hunts, proof, it's right. That chase feels safe, even when it's harsh. Curiosity shifts your focus from the finish to the details. You start asking what's here, not what should be here. It's like tapping the brakes on a steep hill. The rush slows, and you can actually steer. You see it in small, ordinary moments. You're in the kitchen, morning light on the counter. Your hand goes to the same jar you swore off yesterday. That's the loop running itself. Then you quietly wonder what this pull is made of. The quiet hum in the room comes into focus. You notice you're not hungry. You're stirred up from a hard conversation. Your hand pauses on its own. Maybe you still take a little. Maybe you don't. Either way, the moment isn't driving you anymore. That's what curiosity does. It doesn't try to win. It changes the question. Instead of must, you get maybe. Instead of a script, you get a scene you can look at. In that space, pressure drops and options come back. Curiosity is the first step out of control because it turns certainty into something you can examine, not obey. When you're looking closely, Control can't run the show. Unreadable mindset. Being hard to read is a quiet kind of control. When people can't guess your next move, they can't push you into it. Unreadability doesn't hide who you are. It protects when you decide to show it. It gives you room to think. People watch faces, tone, and timing to predict you. Their brains crave a pattern. If you give quick tells, they learn what gets a reaction. Then they press them without thinking. A sigh says you're tired. A quick smile says you'll say yes. That's a reward loop for them. When you keep signals small and slow, you break the loop. You buy time to check your own aim. You keep the power of the last reveal. That's why unreadability guards independence. Picture a team meeting. A pen clicks. The air is cool. Someone wants a fast yes. They pitch hard, eyes on you. You hold a steady posture. You breathe once. You ask one calm question. Then you wait. The room shifts in that small pause. They add facts. They soften terms. They move closer to your line, even if they don't know it. You nod, still neutral. You choose when the answer lands. Unreadable isn't distant. It's careful pacing. You're not masking feelings forever. You're deciding the moment they matter. It keeps your choices from being pulled by someone else's rush. You can still be open, later, on purpose. Share fully when it serves the truth, not the pressure. Quiet signals keep your choices yours. Detached strength. In tight systems, caring too much makes you easier to control. The person who can wait or walk away is hard to control. That quiet gap becomes a kind of strength. Control works by making outcomes feel urgent and rare. Your brain tracks the hint of reward and the risk of loss. That small hit of dopamine teaches you to chase. So you lean forward, you react fast, and you stop seeing options. Detachment resets that loop. When your worth doesn't depend on the next yes, your body stays calmer. You get time to think, and the system has less control. People who run control games count on visible need. When you don't show it, they have to change their plan. You see it in a weekly meeting. A manager offers a bonus, ties it to a sudden change, and watches the room jump. Papers rustle, chairs scrape, the marker squeaks on the board. Most people rush to promise more. You keep your pace. You ask clear questions. You choose work that matches the plan, not the sudden bonus. Because you can accept either outcome, you don't get rushed by their deadline. You see the same pattern anywhere rules are tight. Schools, teams, offices, and even friend groups. The person who needs approval the most gets shaped the fastest. The one who can take a breath, waits, and shapes the rules back. Detachment isn't cold, and it isn't apathy. It's caring about the process more than the pressure. It's holding goals lightly, so you stay free to choose. In any controlled system, the tightest knot is need. Loosen that, and pressure turns into information. Then power shifts quietly back to you. Slow strategy. Speed makes you easy to steer. When you move slower, you become harder to push. Most systems count on momentum, not on thought. It happens because your brain loves to finish chains. One cue sparks the next step, then the next. Each small completion gives a tiny hit of dopamine, a warm sense of relief. Designers stack these steps close together. Fewer pauses, fewer seams. You glide before you notice you're moving. Slowing down breaks that chain. A pause adds friction, and friction wakes judgment. In that extra second, your prefrontal cortex catches up. You see the choice as a choice, not a path. The reward loop cools. Urgency looks smaller when it has to wait. You see it in a grocery aisle. The cart hums. The air is cool by the fridges. End caps shout deals. the path curves toward them. If you walk half as fast and stop once, the spell weakens. You notice the bright box is at your hand. The plain one sits lower, and it's cheaper. You put the bright one back, not with strain, just with calm hands. Most environments are built for flow. Music sets the pace. Aisles bend toward targets. When you move slower, choices get heavier again. Pressure turns into options. You're still moving, just on your terms. Slow makes control visible again. Invisibility Tactic. Being seen feels like power, but in some rooms, invisibility is the only real defense. Control needs a handle to grab. Attention is that handle. When you stand out, people map you fast, then push where you're soft. Systems do it too. The loud, eager person gets the extra tasks, the blame, the tests. Controlling minds chase reactions because each flinch pays them a small reward. When you give less edge, there's less to hold. You see it in a meeting under bright lights. The air humming and papers rustling. A manager scans faces, waiting for a volunteer or a tell. The person beside you jumps in, offers a fix, and suddenly it's their problem. You stay still, take notes, ask one small, neutral question, then let the silence do the work. You're present, but you don't glow. Later, you do your part without making a show of it, and no one tries to steer you off course. It happens because saying no isn't always safe. Some setups punish refusal, then call it feedback. So the safest move is to give fewer targets. You lower the signal until you blend into the room's noise. You share enough to stay human, not enough to be a hook. It isn't hiding your life. It's choosing where your life can be touched. In places that reward control, losing the spotlight is how you keep the wheel. Sometimes the cleanest form of power is removing the handle they're reaching for. Silent rebellion. Silence looks like nothing, but it isn't. When pressure builds, not speaking can be the strongest form of no. People who want control expect your voice to meet theirs. It brings the push to a halt. Control needs feedback. It runs on your replies, your explanations, your sorries. Each answer feeds a small reward loop, a warm hit of certainty. When you go quiet, you pull the plug on the noisy machine. The script breaks, and the person pushing loses their cues. People feel reactance, the urge to push back, when they're pressed hard. Silence lets you stop the push without pushing back. You're at a long table while someone in charge says the decision's already made. You keep your hands still and let the pause grow. The air conditioner hums, a chair scrapes, and their voice stalls. They repeat themselves, but softer this time. Someone else looks up and says they're not sure. The room shifts because you didn't rush to fill the space. The pause stretches just long enough to feel like a choice. Silence works because it changes pace. It forces checks without open conflict. It removes the cheap reward of getting a rise out of you. It also keeps you safe from words that can be twisted. In groups, one person holding a calm pause gives others permission to think. It doesn't mean you're weak or cold. It means you're choosing where your energy goes. You're not surrendering. You're setting the terms. In certain moments, the absence is the message. Needless victory. Some wins take more than they give. You get the result, then feel smaller, not bigger. It looks like control, but it steals ease. It feels tight. It happens because a win invites new duties. People now expect you to keep that line. You expect it from yourself. The small hit of dopamine says, do it again. You build a habit around being right. It feels safe, so you trade away options to keep that safety. Once you set a rule, you also set a pattern. Breaking it later feels like failure, even when it would help. That's sunk cost. You paid, so you keep paying. To protect the win, you narrow choices. You watch, you check, you fix. It's a tidy win that starts to own your time. Like building a small fence, you then have to maintain. Picture a calm evening at the sink. You argued that dishes must be done your way. You won. Now you stand there most nights, hands in warm water, listening to the soft clink of plates. You correct someone and redo a few. You're the expert, so the job sticks to you. The kitchen is cleaner. Your evening is smaller. You see the pattern in work, in plans, in money. The firmer the grip, the more you carry. Failure stings, but it can leave you free to move and try again. Some victories lock you into defending them. Real control is room to adjust, not proof you're right. The win that costs range isn't worth the price. Invisible player. Control survives on prediction. If someone can guess your next move, they can steer it. Most control isn't loud. It's a script. It ends when you stop playing that script. People use cues and rewards. Guilt, urgency, praise. Your brain learns the loop. Comply. Feel relief. Resist. Feel threat. We call it conditioning. It just feels like keeping the peace. The hidden rules say, answer fast, explain yourself, patch every tension. When you drop one rule, the loop stalls. Control needs visible, reliable moves. Play by different rules, and they can't get a grip. Picture a meeting late Friday. The marker squeaks, the room hums. A rush task lands on the table. The old rule says, jump in or you'll look difficult. You change the rule. You don't argue urgency. You ask for scope, time, and trade-offs. You offer Monday, clear and calm. No apology. The test loses heat. The request shifts shape. Someone else volunteers, or the deadline softens. The control that needed your reflex can't find it. Most control checks for your old signals. It may push harder, then settle. It's not about dominance. It's about incentives. When relief isn't tied to pleasing them, things shift. And when cost isn't tied to saying no, the loop rewires. People adapt to the rules that pay. Control fades when prediction breaks and the map can't find you. Transparent control. When control is clear, it doesn't vanish. It just feels safer to follow. You can see the strings, and you still move. It happens because people don't fight as hard when they're told what's happening. Hidden pressure triggers reactance, that hot pushback when you feel pushed. But when the plan is on the table, your mind shifts from defense to choice. The path of least effort is still there. The rewards and costs haven't changed. Transparency lowers suspicion, not the incentives that steer you. You see it in a cafeteria at lunch. The trays slide, there's a soft clatter of cutlery, and a small sign says, water is first to make it easier to pick. You could reach past it. You don't have to agree. Yet, most people still take the water. It's closer. It's quick. It feels reasonable. The nudge is named, and it still works because the friction the sign described is real. Or, in a team meeting, the agenda is written on the wall. 2 short rounds, then decisions. Everyone knows the structure will cut rambling and give each person time. No one's trapped, and anyone could speak out of turn, but they don't. The room settles. There's the faint squeak of a marker, and the shape of the talk holds. The control is transparent, and it pulls because it's fair and clear. That's the quiet trick. Transparency exposes the frame and builds consent, while the frame still shapes what you do. Seeing the plan doesn't cancel the plan. It just lets you walk it with open eyes. Subtle rewards. Control rarely sounds like control. It feels like a treat you earned, and you tell yourself you chose it. Small rewards teach fast. Your brain tags the moment with dopamine, that warm little yes when things go your way. It links the feeling to what you just did. Do it again. Get the lift. Again. And when the reward is a bit unpredictable, your attention locks on tighter. You lean in, waiting for the next small win. People use this without saying a word. A smile, a quick thank you, a tiny bump of status, a faster response, a softer path, less friction. That's all it takes. The loop forms, and your actions start to aim toward the treat. You don't wait for orders. You feel the pull, and you move. You see it in a meeting around a long table. The air hums, the dry squeak of a marker on the board. Someone agrees, the manager laughs, and their idea gets scheduled. Someone raises a concern, there's a pause, then a tight nod, and the room slides past them. Do that a few times, and the room learns. People speak earlier on one side. Questions get shorter. The reward wrote the rhythm, line by line. No one said what to do. The reward said it for them. That's why this kind of control feels gentle, even friendly. It lives in nods, timing, and easy doors. Over time, the pattern becomes yours, and you stop noticing who set it. A small prize can guide a crowd, one easy step at a time. Invisible pressure. Most choices start before you notice. Invisible pressure sets the first step. You feel free, yet the path is already smooth in one direction. You rarely catch the start, only the moment of picking. By then, you're already moving. It feels natural. Your brain hates waste. It saves energy by following cues. First options feel safe. Defaults feel right. A small hit of dopamine, that warm ease of not deciding, pulls you forward. We also copy what we see. If others move one way, your body tilts that way. The choice feels like yours because it's yours, but it's shaped. Little things do it. The top item on a list, a box that's already checked, a path with fewer steps, words like limited or recommended, even a pause from someone waiting. All of that adds weight before awareness catches up. Picture a market on a quiet morning. Cool air brushes your arms as you step in. Apples sit at eye level, bright and clean. A small sign says, "Popular choice." A basket handle sits right there, light and open. Your hand moves before you plan. Later, you see the other fruit, lower and farther back. You didn't ignore it. You just met the easy path first. That's how control often works. Not by orders, but by shaping what's near, smooth, and normal. Most pressure stays invisible, like a gentle current in a shallow stream. When you feel it, the force makes sense. In the end, the easiest path gets chosen most. Conditioned politeness. Politeness sounds harmless, even kind, but in many rooms, it's a quiet way to keep power steady. You're trained early to be nice. Soft voice, small smile, careful words. You get praise when your tone soothes, not when your point lands. You get corrected when you sound sharp, even if you're right. That's conditioning, simple reinforcement. Over time, your brain links safety to gentleness and danger to directness. The small relief of approval becomes the reward. So, you learn to soften hard facts, to pad requests with apology. Some people get called emotional for the same words others call firm. The rule isn't equal, it tracks status. In unequal settings, that rule shifts from be clear to be safe for the person in charge. In a staff meeting, you raise a real risk. A chair scrapes on the floor, the air vents hum. The manager doesn't touch the problem first, they name the mood. They ask for a better tone, more respect, less edge. Everyone nods. The issue cools down on the table, and the actual risk slides to the side. By the end, the room feels calm and nothing changes. Politeness can protect dignity, but when it's enforced top-down, it protects status. It shifts attention from harm to manners, like a cushion over a bruise. People with less power carry the extra work of wrapping truth in silk, while the powerful keep their calm as proof they're right. That's why disruption gets labelled rude faster than neglect gets labelled harmful. A system like that protects the centre and blames the edges. In those moments, politeness isn't kindness. It's control, dressed as courtesy. The comfort lie. Comfort feels honest. It says, stay here, you're safe. But sometimes it hides a deal you didn't notice. The lie is simple. If it feels good, it must be good for you. That's how many people get held in place. It happens because your brain loves easy wins. A kind nod, a calm routine, small treats, each gives a small hit of dopamine. Your body relaxes, your guard drops, and habits form. People who want order understand this. They offer cushions, then tighten rules. You don't feel the hold, because it feels soft. You start guarding the comfort, not your choices. Bit by bit, you trade a hard no for a smooth day. That's conditioning, one small reward at a time. Think about a workplace lounge. Coffee warm in your hand. The snacks are free. The slogans say family. Deadlines creep, then weekends vanish. Someone praises you for being flexible. Someone hints the perks depend on being a team player. You sit back. The chair almost pulls you down. You don't push back in the meeting because you don't want to be the one who breaks the nice mood. You leave late, again, telling yourself it's fine. It's just this week. Comfort isn't the enemy. Real rest is good, and peace matters. But when comfort asks for your silence, it's not comfort, it's control. A warm blanket that keeps getting heavier. The test is simple. If the ease disappears the moment you say no, you weren't safe. You were managed. Real ease doesn't need your obedience to survive. Obedience in disguise. Most obedience doesn't feel like obeying. It feels like helping. When a request wears good intentions, it slides in without a fight. We're built to keep harmony. Praise gives a small warm rush. That's dopamine, and your brain likes it. Badges, titles, and calm voices signal who to follow. A small yes makes the next yes easier. Saying no risks conflict, and your mind quickly makes a reason to avoid that pain. Over time, we tie being good to saying yes. That's conditioning, and it makes refusal feel wrong. Identity does the rest. You want to be the helpful one. You're in a meeting room with dry marker in the air, chairs softly scraping. The person in charge asks for someone to stay and finish the report. For the team. People nod. You lift your hand before you've weighed it. It feels like care. It also fits the shape of the room, the power, and the reward of being seen as good. You tell yourself you chose freely, and you do want to help. But you're also dodging the awkward pause that would follow a no. You see the same pattern at a community event. A clipboard goes around for extra shifts, labelled as helping the cause. You sign because you like the cause and because eyes are on you. The story in your head says you chose. The pressure in the air says it chose for you. No one gives an order, yet the choice already feels made. This is how control hides inside kindness. It borrows your best values, then uses them to steer your next move. The gentlest leash is the one you want to hold. The hidden trade. Peace feels safe, and it's quick. You give a small, quick yes, the room stays calm. It works, and it feels kind. But when you buy quiet, there's always a price in choice. When tension rises, your body wants relief. Saying yes turns off the alarm. Your shoulders drop. That relief is a reward, a small hit of dopamine. Your brain links giving in with safety, so it repeats it. The other side learns it too, because resistance fades when they push. Soon, the easiest path is the one where you bend. Think about a friend at your kitchen table, planning a weekend. They push for their plan, talking fast. You were tired, the kettle hissed, and you said it's fine. They smiled, the tension eased, and the plan became theirs. Next time, they start at the same point, because last time worked. You're now the calm one who agrees, and your choices shrink without a scene. This is conditioning, not a plot. Most people don't notice. They just follow the relief. Each easy yes changes what people expect from you. They speak first, you adjust, and the pattern hardens. Over time, you feel less like you choose, more like you accept. It doesn't mean peace is bad. It means every trade has a cost, even the soft ones. There's nothing dramatic here, just a slow shift in who decides. Control hides in comfort, and it grows in quiet rooms. Peace that erases your say isn't peace. Predictable rebellion. Rebellion looks wild from the outside. Up close, it's often predictable. You push hard, and the same boundaries stop you, again and again. It happens because systems study patterns. They track when people get restless and where they'll go. So they build soft places to land, release points, approved ways to say no. You feel the rush of being heard, a small win, a small fix, and the heat drops. That little hit of dopamine, that warm relief, seals the loop. The core stays, the edges move, and it feels like motion. They set the options, and you choose inside them. It feels free, but it's framed. There's even a day for it, a time, a form. You see it in a city march with a permit. The route is set. The path is marked and timed. A thick marker squeaks on cardboard as signs get made. You walk, you chant, you circle the same 4 blocks, and you end at a stage by the steps. The budget passes the next morning. Officials thank everyone for showing up. They promise a review and send an email with new dates. Most resistance is shaped before it starts. That's why predictable rebellion gets absorbed. It's loud, it's visible, and it leaves the engine running. What scares control isn't noise, it's surprise. It's the mismatch in timing, the step that wasn't on the map. Control isn't a wall, it's a set of rails. You keep moving, just not where you thought. A rebellion that arrives on schedule is already part of the plan. The quiet enforcer. Control rarely comes from the person at the top. Most of the time, it comes from the people beside you. Small looks, a short pause, a soft word. That quiet pressure keeps more rules than any loud order. It happens because people live inside a web of signals. You watch others, they watch you, and your brain tracks what keeps you in the group. Belonging feels good, like a small hit of reward. Being pushed out hurts, like a sting you want to avoid. Leaders are far and slow, but peers are close and fast. They see the moment, they care about the shared space, and they nudge you back into line. You see it in a crowded gym, when there's one rack and a clear queue. Someone drifts ahead. No coach steps in. There's a shuffle of feet, the soft squeak of rubber on the floor, and a person near the front says, "Easy, we're taking turns." A few heads turn, the line tightens, the drift stops, or no one even speaks. People just hold the space with their bodies, and the message lands anyway. The rule wasn't written on a wall, it was carried by the group. Most people enforce to protect fairness, and also to protect their own standing. A quick correction can earn respect, or at least remove a small risk. Over time, These tiny moves shape habits. They teach what's normal without a meeting or a memo. Leaders rely on this rhythm more than they admit. That's why enforcement feels personal even when it's social. The group is the real guardrail and it sits right next to you. False autonomy. You feel most in control when you get to choose. You say yes to one thing and no to another, and it feels like it's yours. But often, that autonomy only exists inside limits someone else set. It happens because the brain uses options as a signal. More options feel like more power. And deciding gives a small hit of dopamine, the warm relief that says, good job. But options live on a menu. Someone wrote the menu, ordered it, and left other things off. That's how freedom can feel full, while staying inside a narrow space. You see it in a big furniture store with arrows on the floor. You walk past tidy rooms. The air is cool and smells like wood glue. You choose the blue chair over the grey. You compare 3 sizes and pick the middle. It feels like taste. But the path, the lighting, the 3 price points, the tags at eye level, those were set long before you arrived. Even the exit sits past the last shelf, so you pass extra things after you've decided. Most people aren't tricked, they're guided. And guidance isn't always bad. It keeps things simple. It saves time. The paradox is this: you can be free and directed at the same time. Real control is noticing the limits around your choices. Freedom is the shape of the room you're in. Learned helplessness. People don't give up because they're weak. They give up because not trying sometimes hurts less than trying and failing again. It happens when your brain turns past, misses into a rule. After a few hard hits, it tags the whole thing as danger. Stress rises, your chest tightens, and you freeze. The moment you stop, there's relief. That tiny relief is a reward, a quiet dopamine hit. So the habit forms. You expect no control, and you protect yourself by not stepping in. It also spreads sideways. When you lose control in one area, your brain treats nearby tasks as the same risk. People around you can speed this up. If someone always takes over, your body learns to stand back. If failure gets mocked, your mind gets stricter about what's safe. You see it in small rooms. You bring a clear idea to a meeting, and someone waves it off without looking. Your face warms. Next week, you think of another idea. You feel that same heat, and you stay quiet. The meeting moves on, chairs scrape, and you feel a soft, guilty calm. That calm teaches your body that silence is safer. Over time, the story spreads. What didn't work once starts to feel like it can't work ever. You stop trying again, even when the setup has changed. The world hasn't closed. Your prediction has. Learned helplessness isn't laziness or fate. It's a shield that hardens into a wall. It's protection that starts to feel like reality. Strategic ignorance. Ignorance isn't always a mistake. Sometimes you don't look because not looking keeps you steady. You hold your balance by narrowing what gets in. It happens because attention is limited. Every new fact asks for action. If a fact threatens your plans, your body reads it like danger. Your chest tightens, breath goes shallow. Stopping that input brings quick relief. That relief is a small hit of dopamine, a tiny reward for staying the same. Over time, your brain learns the trick. Don't check. Feel calm. Don't ask. Feel in control. It's a way to set a limit when the world pushes too much. The control is real in feeling, even if the risk still sits outside. You see it under the sink, a slow drip, tapping the bucket. The tile feels cool under your knees as you lean in. You know calling someone might mean a bigger bill, a messy day, more choices. So you tighten the bucket, wipe the edge, and close the cabinet. For now, the kitchen is quiet again. You made the problem small by making it unseen. You can finish dinner, talk, move on. People do this with money, with feedback, with health, and with love. It's not always fear. Sometimes it's saving yourself. You're saving energy for things you can change today. That's why this strategy shows up in hard seasons. It buys you space, but it also redraws the map a little smaller. In the end, control can come from what you manage or from what you refuse to let in. Echoed desire. Most wants don't start inside you. They start when you see someone want. Desire repeats. It moves through a room and you feel it. You see it spread without words. That's not weak. It's how people move together. Your brain copies. When someone reaches, your body rehearses the reach. When someone lights up about a thing, your brain marks it as worth checking. It saves time and risk. If others want it, it might be safe, scarce, or high status. You even get a small hit of dopamine from the shared aim. Status cues make it stronger. Your mind thinks, this must matter. You're at a small market, walking past a table of bowls. You glance, then keep going. A stranger stops, lifts a plain one, turns it in the light. The seller leans closer. You feel a small urge and you walk back. The rim feels smooth under your thumb. That shift isn't fake. It's a social reflex. We read other people to find what matters. Then it feels like it came from you. Some people build control from this by modeling desire on purpose. Lines form, reviews glow, a friend praises, and the urge gets stronger. Sometimes it passes. Sometimes it stays. Most desire begins as a borrowed note, then becomes your own. It's your invisible authority. The strongest authority is the kind you don't see. It hides inside small routines that feel like nothing at all. You follow it because it feels normal, not because someone told you. It feels natural, like stepping where the floor is clear. You rarely ask who cleared it. It happens because the brain loves saving effort. Repeated cues start to feel like rules. You get a tiny warm ease when you follow them. You feel a prickle of worry when you don't. The people who set things up know this. Defaults, signs, and timing steer you without a voice. In the office kitchen, the fridge hums and the counter is cool. You take the same mug from the same hook. You rinse it because a faded note once said to. You wipe a ring of coffee with a towel. The air smells faintly of citrus soap. No one's watching. You still do it, and it feels right. On the way back, you walk the long way around the desks. The chairs make a narrow lane, so that lane becomes law. You could cut across, but your feet don't. You wait a beat at the printer, even when it's free, because waiting there is part of the dance. The building shapes behaviour, and the behaviour then polices itself. That's invisible authority. Not a person pointing, but a script your body recites. It's conditioning, but it just feels like being polite or being efficient. Seeing it doesn't break it, but it makes it honest. Once you notice it, you see the gentle push in everyday steps. Quiet control lives inside what you repeat. Mutual control. People say relationships are built on honesty. That sounds right, but something sits under it. It's the quiet deal to share control. Your brain wants to predict what happens next. Honesty gives facts, but facts don't steer behavior. Shared control does. Small rules, routines, and signals let two people shape each other. They reduce surprise, so the nervous system can rest. It's a feedback loop. You act, they respond, you adjust. That loop holds people together. Think about a weekend plan in a small kitchen. morning light on the table. One person says they need space this Saturday. It's true, and it stings when it lands with no plan. Now, they set how the day will work. A time to be apart, a time to meet, a check-in after lunch. They turn a hard moment into a plan. The kettle hums, and the room loosens. That's shared control. Each person keeps power, but they also lend some. It's consent to influence. In psychology, that's co-regulation, and it lowers threat. Honesty alone can be sharp. Shared control wraps it in shape. Power isn't a dirty word here. It's just who can nudge what. Your inner alarm gets quiet when nudges are fair. You see it with money, with time, with touch, with plans. We trust not just because words are true, but because behaviour is steerable. When both hands touch the wheel, even rough roads feel stable. That's why apologies feel better with a plan. Truth plus leverage beats truth alone. That's why real closeness is a pattern of gentle control, traded both ways. Emotional routines. Some feelings don't just happen. They repeat in the same order. You think you're choosing, but the next steps are already set. That's why a small moment can pull your whole day in one direction. It happens because the brain loves patterns. It predicts to keep you safe and to save energy. A feeling shows up and it points at a move. You do the move and you get a result. Relief, comfort, a small hit of control. Control, in this sense, isn't a plan. It's the relief your body expects next. Dopamine marks that spot. Do that again. If the relief arrives, the loop tightens. If it doesn't, your brain keeps searching for a better step. Do it a few times, and a path gets worn. Picture a quiet kitchen before a hard talk. Your stomach tightens, your jaw holds. Without thinking, you wipe the counter. The cloth is cool, the soap smells clean. The surface shines, your chest softens. The talk still waits, but the relief lands now. Your brain links worry to wiping, and wiping to calm. Next time, the same knot pulls your hand toward the cloth. Anger can loop into a joke that wins a laugh. Loneliness can loop into a snack that brings a warm pause. The action teaches the feeling what comes next. With repeats, the loop starts to run itself, and it feels like control. Most people don't notice the routine. They just call it their way. Soon, the cue feels like a command. In the end, the routine decides the next move. The safety illusion. Safety often feels like a solid thing, but most of the time, it's a feeling that arrives before the facts. Your brain loves clear edges, signs, and locks. They look like control. When doubt drops, you get a small hit of dopamine, a warm ease in the chest. That ease feels like proof. So you treat the feeling as truth, and your body relaxes. That's why this illusion is so strong. It fixes the worry faster than the world can. We also change once we feel safe. When a barrier shows up, we push a little harder. When a label says tested, we stop checking. It's a quiet trade. You give up some caution as soon as the world looks padded. The risk doesn't vanish. It just shifts. It hides under the comfort and waits for a looser move. Picture a small pier on a grey morning. You pull on a bright life jacket, and the wood feels damp under your shoes. Waves tap the posts, slow and steady. You lean past the rail to watch the water swirl, a little farther than you would before. The jacket didn't move the water. It only moved you. That's the trick. Safety signs lower fear faster than they lower danger. Real control changes what can happen, not just how you feel. The feeling is a signal, not proof. And the most convincing illusions are the ones that sound like relief. Comfort isn't the same thing as control. Controlled spontaneity. People think spontaneity means chaos, but the best spontaneous moments sit inside a small frame. When it feels free, someone quietly set the stage. Spontaneity feels safer when the edges are known. Your brain loves choice, but too many choices stall it. A clear container lowers risk and sparks action. It's like a fence around a wide field, so you can run without scanning for cliffs. Small limits also feed dopamine, because your wins are easier to spot. That's why controlled freedom often feels more alive than pure randomness. You set light rules, then forget them. A time window, a rough area, a budget you won't regret. One or two things you won't do today, so you stop debating them. You carry what keeps things easy, then leave the rest at home. You didn't script the moment, you just cleared the path. Picture a free afternoon. You give yourself 2 hours, 3 nearby streets, and $30. You walk with a friend, hear your steps on the gravel, and follow what pulls you. The third place that catches your eye, you step in. If it rains, you duck into the first warm room. You try something small, maybe a new pastry, and let the smell of bread decide the next turn. It feels loose, but it's held by simple limits you chose when your head was clear. That's controlled spontaneity. You keep the reins, but you hold them softly. You lower the cost of saying yes, and raise the chance something good will appear. The surprise lands clean because you made space for it and didn't push. It's freedom with gentle walls, and it works. Perceived freedom. You feel free when you believe you can choose. The facts matter less than that feeling. Give people the same outcome and a choice they can see, and their shoulders drop. Take away the choice, and the same outcome feels tight. Freedom lives in the space your mind thinks it can move. It happens because the brain tracks control, not rules. When you expect you can steer, your threat system quiets. Uncertainty feels unsafe. Predictability, even small predictability, gives relief. That small hit of dopamine says, you did this. Agency turns stress into effort. The work can be the same, but the story your brain tells is different. Picture a busy food counter at lunch. Steam rises, tongs clink, and you slide a bowl along the rail. One sign says, build your own. Another line serves the same bunch of ingredients as a set plate. People in the first line feel in charge. They pick a sauce, say yes or no to a topping, and feel freer. The bowls often come out almost the same. It's not about fooling yourself. It's about where your attention lands. When you can pick steps, your focus shifts from danger to doing. The body trades adrenaline for direction. Even a narrow lane feels open when you get to steer inside it. You see this in homes, teams, and cities. A small choice, one you can touch, softens the edge of a hard limit. That's why false choices work, and why honest options change. Behaviour. Nothing magical happens to the facts. The brain just relaxes when it can name a path. Perceived freedom is still freedom to the nervous system. Trained intuition. Intuition sounds like magic, but it's trained. The feeling that you just know is usually practice, stored as a feeling. It happens because the brain hates slow steps. When you repeat something, your brain compresses it into quick cues. Little rewards, that warm hit of dopamine, mark the right move. Mistakes sting, and that sharp note helps tune the pattern. Over time, the long checklist becomes a simple yes or no. Think about dough on a counter. At first, you check a recipe, count minutes, and worry. After many tries, your hands decide. The dough turns from sticky to smooth, and you stop right before it tears. The sound shifts, a soft thud against the board, and you know you're there. You see it in conversation. After enough talks, you can sense when to stop, or when someone wants in. You didn't run a rule book. Your brain matched a pattern. You catch the right moment, and you leave space. Later, you'll say you just felt it. That feel came from dozens of moments where jumping in went wrong, and waiting went right. That's trained instinct, doing the timing before you even notice. Most people call that instinct, but it's training you stacked, one small piece at a time. Your nervous system keeps score, then builds a faster route. That faster route feels like control, and it is, but it's quiet control you built while you weren't looking. What you repeat and reward becomes the gut feel you trust. In the end, intuition is experience that's become automatic. The permission habit. People keep asking for permission long after they have it. The habit sticks because permission feels safer than freedom. It's a soft habit that hides in small moments. As kids, adults held the keys. You learned to wait, then move. School bells, lines, raised hands. Each yes gave relief. A small hit of dopamine, the warm drop in your chest. Your brain tagged it as good. Your nervous system learns the pattern and keeps it running. Ask, get a nod, feel safe, avoid blame. Years later, you're at a neighbour's potluck. The table's open to everyone, but you still pause at the big salad bowl. The tongs clack softly in the metal rim, and you look up for someone's nod. Warm air drifts over the table, carrying a bit of smoke. No one is stopping you. You still ask anyway, in a light voice. You're already in the backyard, yet you act like you're at a checkpoint. It happens because asking does more than seek rules. It shifts risk onto someone else. If it goes wrong, it wasn't your call. It's also a social signal. You're gentle. You belong. It also saves effort because decisions cost energy. Over time, the loop runs by itself, like waiting for a green light no one controls. Permission isn't bad. It protects shared space, and it's kind when it guards others. But freedom also needs practice. You don't need a witness for every step. The habit only fades when your mind trusts its own choices. In some rooms, there's no gate at all, only your hand on the latch. Predictable conflict. Some fights don't break things, they hold them together. When the shape of a clash is familiar, people relax in a strange way. It happens because our brains crave pattern. Even in tension, a known script feels safer than a blank space. A steady dispute marks the edges, checks small slips, and returns things to a set point. In systems, that's called negative feedback, the push that creates a pullback. Like a thermostat, a small correction keeps the room from swinging too hot or too cold. A predictable conflict does that for people. It provides a landing, then a reset. You see it on Sunday night, in a small kitchen. You're tired, plates are stacked, and the pan is still oily. Someone notes it, someone bristles, and the old routine starts. A few sharp lines, a sigh, a deal that's more reheated than new. Water runs, plates clink, the sponge squeaks on the counter. Hands move, the floor gets wiped, the air smells like soap. 5 minutes later, the steam fades. No one won, no one lost. But the kitchen is clean, and tomorrow is clear. Predictable conflict doesn't fix everything, but it prevents drift. It drains the pressure that would build if no one spoke. It signals what matters without shaking the whole house. People return to their roles, and the system holds its shape. Most of life runs on loops like this, in families, teams, even markets. A small, regular jolt that keeps the larger thing steady. Order often survives on small, familiar storms. The feedback cage. Control often hides in kindness. Feedback feels like care, so you welcome it. It sounds like, we're helping you get better. And before you notice, the loop closes around your choices. It happens because your brain learns from small rewards. A nod, a soft, nice, that little lift in someone's face. Your dopamine spikes, you feel safe, so you repeat the move. When that signal comes only sometimes, your learning gets stronger. Because it comes and goes, the pull grows. You start predicting. You trim edges to win the next nod. They also learn. A tiny frown nudges you. A quiet pause cools you. Silence can punish like words. Without saying much, both sides shape each other. So the loop teaches faster than any rule book. You see it in a meeting room. A low vent hums. You share an idea, a little strange, and a manager stares at the table. Someone taps a pen. You rush to smooth your point. Next week, you bring the safer version. Praise lands fast, and it feels warm. Soon, you're chasing that pattern, not the best idea. After a few months, the odd ideas never leave your notebook. New people learn fast what earns the smile. The room looks close, heads nod in rhythm, but it keeps getting quieter. Most loops like this aren't cruel. They keep peace. They move work along. They can spread through teams, friends, and families without anyone deciding it. It feels smooth, but it trims people down. Connection can guide and still leave space to wonder. But connection that can't bear surprise isn't connection. It's control. When the price of warmth is sameness, the feedback is a cage. Invisible expectations. Rules are loud. Expectations are quiet. The quiet ones steer you more. You don't always see them, but you feel them. They shape what you say, how you move, what you choose. And most days, they work better than any rule. They feel like common sense, not control. You treat them as the normal way to be. It happens because your brain is social. Belonging feels safe. Approval gives a small hit of dopamine, a warm relief in your chest. A fine or a punishment is rare and far away, but a frown, a pause, or silence can land right now. So you predict what people want before they ask. You follow the path that keeps things calm. It's like a current under the surface, gentle but strong. Picture a long table at a simple dinner. No one says wait. There's no sign on the wall. But no one lifts a fork until the host takes the first bite. You hold back because everyone else does. The clink starts, and then you eat. A rule didn't do that. An expectation did. You see it at work, at home, in lines, in quiet rooms. People watch, then match, then lock it in. Small signals teach you the code, and you pass it on without words. That's why what people do beats what they write on paper, day after day. Not because people are weak, but because people are wired to stay in sync. In the end, we follow what we think others already expect of us. Social conditioning. Most control today isn't a rule or a threat. It's the quiet pull of belonging. People learn what to do by watching other people. Your brain copies without asking. It's fast and it feels safe. A nod gives a small hit of dopamine, a warm yes. A frown brings a tight chest, a quick no. Over time, you match the group before anyone speaks. You read tone, pace, and where the laughs land. These tiny rewards and tiny pains build a habit. Soon you predict the nod and move before it arrives. It feels like your idea because it's already in your body. That's why punishment feels old and social learning takes its place. Think about a Saturday cleanup in a park. The air is cool, bags rustle, gravel crunches under shoes. No one says much. One person starts sorting bottles. Others follow the pace. You pause at a wrapper, see a glance, and pick it up. When someone leaves a pile messy, the circle goes quiet, so they fix it. In an hour, the rules feel obvious, and no rule was posted. By noon, the new person moves like the regulars. Most systems use this now. Workplaces, platforms, even small groups at home. They reward with access, attention, and the easy path. They punish with silence, delay, and small losses. You learn the norm, repeat it, and teach it back. That's the loop. Soon you act early, to keep the warm yes. You call it your choice, but the map was drawn by the crowd. The calm trap. The softest voice can move you the furthest. We trust calm because it feels safe. Your nervous system reads tone before content. A slow, even rhythm tells your body to stand down. Relief spreads, and with it, a small hit of dopamine. Now the words slide in easier, so they feel more true. Smooth language reduces friction, so you don't test each claim. We mirror the state we hear. Polite words signal there's no fight here, so your brain switches from careful mode to autopilot. People call it a heuristic, but it just feels like ease. That's why a calm style can carry a hard agenda without sounding harsh. Picture a meeting after lunch, the room warm with coffee. A colleague speaks in a low, steady way, pausing between points. They say, "We're simplifying, we're aligning, we'll just tidy the process." It sounds gentle, but the plan removes your choice of schedule. When they ask for input, the choices are already boxed. You nod to one of them, because it sounds reasonable. Silence feels like agreement, so the plan gains speed. Heads nod to the soft buzz of the air vent. Pens stop moving. By the time a question forms, the group has already agreed. Calm isn't bad. It's a tool. It quiets alarm, which also quiets doubt. Most people don't mean harm. They've learned the trick works. Real care can be calm too, but it doesn't hide the cost. That's the trap when someone wants control to feel like care. The tone relaxes you, so the trade-off doesn't feel like a trade. Calm makes control feel like your idea. Manipulated certainty. Certainty feels safer than truth. It gives your mind a place to stand, like a rail you can grip when the floor shifts. It happens because your brain hates open loops. Unclear things keep the alarm system half on, and that costs energy. A neat answer closes the loop, and you get a small reward. That warm, quiet yes. Confidence is used as a shortcut. Simple story, clear cause, bold promise. Your brain hears that tone, and it relaxes before it checks the facts. That's why people who want control reach for strong, tidy claims. They're selling relief, and relief spreads fast. You see it in a meeting when the room is tense. The lights hum a little, chairs scrape, people wait. One person says, "It's complicated," and starts to explain moving parts. Another steps in and says, "Don't worry, this fixes it." Heads turn toward the simple line. Shoulders drop. The clear plan wins the room, even if it hides the risk that still exists. Later, when reality pushes back, the same room asks for another certain answer. The cycle keeps feeding itself. Most people don't notice the trade. The feeling of knowing replaces the work of knowing. Absolute words create a sense of control. The faster the promise arrives, the quicker the fear fades, and the stickier the message becomes. Truth can be slow, with edges and weight. Certainty is light and easy to carry, even when it's wrong. That's why manipulated certainty travels farther than honest doubt. It's comfort first, accuracy second. The approval code. Most groups run on a quiet rule. Say the right things, and you're in. Miss them, and you feel a small chill. It isn't written anywhere. It moves in nods, in how faces change when you hit the note. It tells you what to say, and when to stay quiet. It's like a handshake You learn by watching. This pattern is the approval code. It's not magic. It's learning and reward. Your brain gives a soft hit of dopamine when people agree. That warm relief trains you fast. You repeat the words that worked and the moves that got smiles. After a while, the code stops feeling like a trick. It starts to feel like you. That's how identity links to compliance. Picture a meeting in a plain room. Chairs slide on the floor. A vent hums. Coffee smells faintly sweet. Someone says the new plan is bold. You wait, then say, it's smart and it shows we care. Heads nod, pens tap again. The room loosens. Next week, you carry that line into every talk. You pick points that fit it. You skip the parts that don't. Not because you're scared, but because the nods made the next step clear. Most people do this without noticing. We trade small bits of honesty for smooth steps with the group. It keeps the group calm, and it keeps your place clear. But the code also shapes your edges. You start leaving out parts that don't win a nod. In time, approval guides what you keep and what you drop. Constructed agreement. Most agreement isn't chosen. It's shaped so it feels like your choice. You feel free while moving the way it wants. That's why control often arrives with a smile, not a shove. People push back when they feel forced, so smart systems remove the push. They set defaults that move you forward. They ask for objections instead of asking for consent. They give two options that lead to the same place. They show that most people agreed, so you feel safe joining. They mix clarity with speed, so you nod before you think too long. You see it in a meeting after lunch. The manager says they'll proceed unless someone disagrees. The room stays quiet. There's a soft vent hum. A clipboard circles with your name already printed. The yes box sits checked, and the opt-out line asks for a sentence. The pen is in your hand before you've formed a thought. The plastic pen is warm from the last hand. You let it pass, because pausing the process feels heavier. This isn't trickery in the cartoon sense. It's design. Silence counts as consent. Defaults reduce friction, and effort becomes a break. Saying no takes time, attention, and a small social risk. Each small yes locks to the last one, so you remember agreeing, even when the agreement was built around you. Constructed agreement keeps control quiet and keeps you calm. It looks voluntary because you took each step, even if the rails were set. In the end, control doesn't need to push, it just needs to arrange. Influence loops. Influence doesn't move in straight lines. It loops through trust. When you believe a voice, that voice keeps coming back, and it feels right each time. It's soft, not loud. It's a calm pull you already know. Here's why it happens. When someone you trust speaks, your guard drops. You don't test every word. Your brain saves energy. It feels good to agree, a small, warm relief. So the message passes, and the trust grows. Then the next message has even less friction. Over time, the circle closes, and new ideas bounce off. You also mirror it to others. When you pass it on, their trust in you flows back to the source. Now, the bond is stronger on both sides. The circle feeds itself. In a small hall with folding chairs, a group plans a weekend project. The air smells like coffee. A vent hums. There's the person who always organizes. People know them, so they look their way. They suggest a plan, steady and clear. Heads nod, pens move. A new volunteer offers a different route. The room goes quiet for a beat, then turns back to the organizer. Later, someone repeats the organizer's line as if it was theirs. The plan holds. That's an influence loop. Trust lifts a voice, the voice builds more trust, and the loop tightens around it. Inside, it feels safe, even obvious. Outside, views feel odd, even when they're useful. This isn't about smart or not. It's about how people keep balance together. In closed circles, control doesn't need force. It leans on who's believed. Engineered trust. Most systems don't run on force. They run because people trust them, and they keep moving because that trust is built on purpose. Trust is engineered with small, steady signals, clear language, the same colors and shapes in the same places, a soft chime when something works, a guarantee that feels real, not vague. These cues lower doubt, give a tiny hit of relief, and teach your brain, this is safe. Over time, that feeling becomes a habit. You follow the path without thinking. Like holding a handrail you don't notice. You see it when you borrow a city bike on a cool morning. You tap, the lock clicks, a green light blinks, and the handlebars feel firm in your hands. You ride 2 blocks, roll back in, and the dock clicks again. Done. If a pedal's loose, you flag it, because the system just treated you fairly. A person in a bright vest nods, and a couple of riders queue without fuss. No one's shouting rules. The simple cues do the work. You end up maintaining the system by acting the way it expects. That's why engineered trust keeps things self-maintaining. Confidence reduces friction, and friction is what breaks order. When you trust, you forgive a small glitch. You try again. You teach a friend how to use it. People become the staff the system can't afford, and the rules mostly enforce themselves. The loop closes every time someone follows it without thinking. When trust is built into the bones, control looks gentle, and the machine keeps running on the power of people believing it will. The hidden balance. Every system offers you a seat and a rule. It gives comfort, then asks for obedience. If it pushes too hard, people leave. If it gives too much slack, it falls apart. It happens because comfort lowers our guard. Relief feels safe, and safety wins trust. Small rewards land fast. A nod, a green light, an easy path. That warm hit of dopamine says, keep doing that. Over time, the pattern trains you. Friction shows up when you resist, so your brain learns the cheaper route. Think about a normal office morning. The air hums, and a cup warms your hands. You swipe your badge, it beeps, doors open, chairs slide. In the meeting, you speak in the style that gets nods. Short, upbeat, aligned with the plan. Heads agree, the slide advances, the hour stays smooth. Ask a hard question, and the room goes quiet. After, there are longer emails, extra checks, and a frown you can't quite name. Families do this. Friend groups do this. Clubs and apps do this. They hand out small comforts for staying in line. They add little costs when you don't. The goal isn't kindness or cruelty, it's survival. Rules hold shape, and comfort keeps people close. When stress rises, rules tighten. When they need you more, perks appear. Once you notice the trade, things get clearer. You see where ease is offered and what it buys. You see the reward loop that keeps things steady. You even see it inside yourself when you promise a treat if you finish the task. It's not dramatic, it's daily. That balance is the quiet bargain that keeps the system going.